welcome to yet another deadline stream for Game Week 22. Hopefully you like the new little setup I've got here, and hopefully I like the points that are coming in, and still got that selection headache from a few days ago. It hasn't changed. I've been chopping and changing. I even put Son on my bench, I put Antonio, I've put everyone pretty much on my bench except obviously the obvious ones, and yeah, I mean, hopefully this goes well, but I'll be answering all your questions. Thank you for everyone who has tuned in. And I imagine a lot of you will be having these selection headaches, and, it's no surprise. Good squad depth is important, but at the same time, it can be our kryptonite. But I'll go through the chat right now, and thank you for everyone who's tuned in. Welcome on up. Thank you for joining in. I really appreciate it. Savage Mode says, looking to transfer in a Chelsea defender in Game Week 23. Who is the best asset? Rudiger, Alonso, Azpilicueta, or Thiago Silva? Well, to be honest, they're all good options, but with Alonso, obviously, he's probably the standout in terms of, the really exciting pick. But then again, he could rotate quite a lot with Chilwell, so we'll have to wait and see with that. The one that really stands out there is Rudiger. So if he starts against Tottenham again, I'm not going to say he's going to play every single game, but it's something to keep an eye on. He's 4.5 million, along with maybe Holding, probably the best around that price. So I'd probably say him, and Dawson's another one. So yeah, Rudiger's going to be the standout, but keep an eye on Alonso. He's obviously really attacking, and he thrives playing as a left wing back, which Tuchel seems to be doing quite a lot. So that would be my suggestion. NG19 says Edison, Justin, Creswell, Stones, Salah, Bruno, Pereira, Maddison, Banford, Wilson, Watkins, bench, Gundogan, Mitchell, Bednarek. Thoughts? Yeah, that's pretty good. Arguably, I know that the fixture's pretty decent for West Brom, but you could maybe go for Gundogan instead of him. But apart from that, yeah, I'd probably stick with that. It looks pretty good. Marcus says, hi Dylan, should I play Wan-Bissaka or Justin? I already have De Gea starting. Is it too risky to go double United defence against Southampton? Yeah, if you already have De Gea, I would probably go for Justin. But then again, with no Ndidi, that is a big blow for Leicester City, and to be honest, that's something I should have considered when benching Banford. So yeah, I'd go for Justin, but not necessarily expecting a clean sheet, but Justin is right in and amongst the top defenders in terms of expected goal involvements over the last four, and you would think he is due a haul in that regard. Arnold asks, should I start Soufal or Dallas? That's a tough one. Because of the attacking threat, and because he's playing in midfield, I'd probably go for Dallas, but that's a really tough one. Everton and Leeds, you would expect to be quite a high-scoring game. With Villa West Ham, it could be, but it could also be maybe a 0-0 or something. But I'd probably go for Dallas. Not much in it. Back your gut with that one. Genius Gamer asks, should I start Antonio or Watkins? I'd probably go for Antonio, but Watkins is... if he starts finishing the chances, then obviously he's going to get you the points. His main problem is his finishing, but yeah, I'd probably go for Antonio. Not much in that, though, and it ultimately depends who you back between those two teams. And yeah, thank you for all these questions. Let me change this for a second. I was having problems with the chat last week. For some reason, I was loading up older messages and not loading up the new ones, so hopefully it doesn't happen today. Welcome, Anthony. Thank you for joining in. Philip says, how was your day? It's pretty good, but... ultimately, really thinking about the bench. So obviously, let me show you right now. On my bench, I got Gundogan first sub. We'll see how that goes. Soufal second and Mitchell third. Some people have said maybe go Mitchell ahead of Soufal, which is fair enough. But ultimately, I don't think Palace will keep a clean sheet. They could win the game, but I do expect Newcastle to score a goal. And then, yeah, with Soufal, maybe an attacking return, but they're really going to be on the bench. The main dilemma I have is Gundogan, and obviously something I haven't mentioned, but it was something that I was discussing in my preview, my team selection. Trent Alexander-Arnold is my transfer. He came in for Walker-Peters, and I just really think he can do really well against Brighton, whether it's a clean sheet, assists or goals, whatever. I think he can have a very good game, and he seems to have turned the corner recently. And something that I didn't know, actually, he was suffering from COVID, I think just a few months ago, so... yeah, it's good that he's recovered, and now I think he's getting back to his best. And it's going to be very interesting, obviously, now that I have three pretty much Liverpool and City defenders, with the clash that they have next week. I'm going to have a bit of a dilemma there, but I am thinking of getting Rudiger in for Mitchell, and then maybe playing Soufal, Rudiger, and one of those three defenders. But that's pretty much how I'm looking at the moment, but obviously it's a long-winded answer to your how is your day question. Who should I start between Creswell, Dallas, and Holding? To be honest, I think the most likely to get a clean sheet is Holding. And ultimately, you have to back your gut on that one. In terms of attacking returns, Creswell, you cannot doubt him. I mean, he's up there for defenders. I'd probably go for Dallas if you want attacking returns. However, Leeds are the least likely to keep a clean sheet. Doesn't mean that they can't. They kept one at Goodison Park earlier this season. So, yeah, I'd go for Holding out of those three, but very tough one. Genius Gamer says, Soufal or Alioski on the bench? I'd probably go for Soufal in that case. I know Alioski at one point was doing really well just before the double game week. But yeah, if it was Dallas, I'd go for him, but not Alioski. I think Soufal's probably better of the two. Gundogan on the bench, yes he is, and I know that's not maybe a popular choice, but I've seen his record against Burnley, and I feel a bit more comfortable benching him because I think he's a bit more susceptible to having his minutes managed in this game. It doesn't mean he definitely will, so don't just take my word for it. It's ultimately what you think, and ultimately I'm just not sure about Antonio benching him. I mean, it's between Antonio and Gundogan, I think. I don't want to bench Son. That's out of the equation for me. And Banford and Calvert-Lewin, I think it could be a high-scoring game, and they could be in and amongst the goals. So, yeah, that's how I'm looking at it, but obviously not a very popular decision. Loving the new stream design, thank you. And obviously, I will be looking to improve in the future. And, I mean, I know it's the Fantasy Premier League background, pretty much, the colour scheme, but it does look a bit like Subway, but forget about that. Jack Walton says, I'm benching Gundogan as well, I think. Yeah, it's not really a popular decision, but hopefully whatever we decide ends up going well. The Soucek problem is back. To bench or not is the question. Obviously, very good question, Dylan, but it ultimately depends who are you benching him for. So yeah, let me know who you're benching him for potentially, and I'll give you an answer there. But to be honest, Soucek, I always say this, he's really difficult to predict. And although Villa over the season have been one of the best defences, recently they've been very shaky and very lucky to keep a clean sheet against Southampton. And that's why I've opted for Antonio at the moment. Things can change, but not much will deviate from what you see on screen right now. Show me your bench, bro. I've just did, but obviously I am catching up to the questions. But yeah, my bench: Gundogan first sub, Soufal second, and Mitchell third. Hi Dylan, I hope you are doing well. Should I play Gundogan or Watkins? Oof, that's a good question. I would probably, I mean, that's a really tough one. I'd still go for Gundogan slightly, but with Watkins, there's always, a chance. You never know. The new sub is much better. Thank you. And obviously, I will be looking to improve it, but really appreciate it. Savage Mode said, is patience the most important quality to have as an FPL manager, especially this season? If not, what is? That's a really good question. In my opinion, patience is definitely up there. I don't know exactly what is. I'd have to honestly give it a good think and then give you a detailed answer, but patience is definitely up there. If you look at Banford, for example, 3 blanks in a row, a lot of people sold him or benched him, and then he gets a 15-point haul. So I think patience is really important. And the main reason I've improved compared to maybe last year when I first started off just taking even more hits than I do now, which is obviously kind of crazy to believe. Yeah, patience was not a thing I had. But as soon as I, built a bit of patience, I got a lot more points and I was improving a lot and going up the ranks. So yeah, patience is definitely up there. The most important, I'm not so sure, but I think trusting your instincts ultimately is really important and not following the crowd just for the sake of it. Because, for example, a lot of people will be starting Gundogan, maybe even captaining him, but I might bench him and it might not pay off, but ultimately you have to own your decisions and not rely on others. Start Son or Soucek? For me, Son. I know Son has a really tough fixture. Chelsea really good defensively, especially on the too short. I would still go for Son. However, it's up to you. Soucek is still capable of scoring points. Whose ceiling is higher? I would argue Son's ceiling is higher, although Soucek has recently got a 15-point haul, whereas Son has been quite a while since he's done that. Shadow Gaming asks, is it worth starting Saka? Depends who you have on your bench, but I think Saka will play. It's not a guarantee, but the way I see it, Saka will either start or not play at all. I doubt he'll be on the bench and come on, although if he's not fully fit, then that might be a possibility if Arsenal are chasing the game, but it ultimately depends how Arsenal and Wolves, it goes on. Start Digne or Creswell? Very good question. Pickford's not starting, so maybe people will see that as a boost. However, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I mean, Everton are really poor defensively at times, and then against Newcastle, I mean, they got beaten comprehensively. They could have conceded more goals. I'd probably go for Creswell, but there's not much in it, and both tough games for the pair of them. Who to captain? Very good question. For me, it's between Cancelo, Salah, and Bruno, and because Mane is most likely going to miss this game, and Salah's record without him is exceptional, and he's got a great record against Brighton, I think I'm going for him. But just back your gut. I think Bruno's due a haul. I think he'll do well against Southampton. And as for Cancelo, I think he will play this game, although I think Pep will have an eye on that Liverpool game at the weekend, which is going to be probably the most important game of the season for them. Adi says, hey Dylan, will Ricardo start now that Castagna has an issue? Yeah, I believe he will. I wouldn't bring him in though. Johnston should keep on starting, and if there was any Leicester defender I'd go for him. He's got the minutes, he's got the full fitness, he's played 90 minutes pretty much every single game, and as I mentioned before, in terms of expected goal involvements around defenders, he is literally in the top 5-10 over the last 4 game weeks, so I'd probably go for Johnston, but I think Pereira will start. Start 2 of Banford, Antonio, or Watkins, probably Banford and Antonio. However, Watkins is difficult to predict. If you already have Grealish, then definitely bench Watkins, but yeah, that guy is so inconsistent, it's so difficult to predict him, even more so than the other two. Faris asks, should I play Martinez or John Stones? That's a bit of a weird combination. Martinez or John Stones? Yeah, I'd go for John Stones, I guess. But yeah. McCarthy, Justin, Dallas, Diaz, Salah captain, Bruno, Gundogan, Grealish, Antonio, DCL, and Watkins. Thoughts on this team? Ooh, yeah, I like that. I like that team. And you might have maybe some problems on the bench, as in who you should start, but I do like that team. It looks pretty good. You really think Son will do anything without Kane? Well, he could. I know his record against Chelsea is quite poor, actually, but he can. And Son has never blanked 3 times in a row this season. Correct me if I'm wrong. That doesn't mean he definitely won't. You know, it's happened to Salah. Look, he's blanked 6 times in a row, for crying out loud. But I still think Son, he has that ability and, you know, the potential for explosiveness. That's why I'm not benching him. It is more likely that he'll blank, but then again, it's, you know, his ceiling is much higher than most of the players in my team and in, you know, the whole game. So that's why I'm not benching Son, and I think he can do something against Chelsea. I do expect Chelsea to get something out of the game, but Son can still score. I like the new stream setup. Thank you, Blues. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad, you know, I was putting a lot of effort into it the last few days. But yeah, obviously I can improve it. Christian says, hi Dylan, what do you think about swapping Son to Zaha and Sterling to Salah? I like those moves. However, despite Sterling's bad record against Burnley, maybe you could captain Sterling and he will do really well for you and there's no need to transfer him out. But I'd probably go for Salah in that case. And as for Son to Zaha, I probably wouldn't. The reason being is that Son has West Brom next week and he's still a great captaincy option despite how poor Spurs have been. West Brom are the worst defence in the league, so I'd probably do that in my opinion. Chelsea Blue says, looking to bring Callum Hudson-Odoi to replace Soucek. He is looking so creative under Tuchel, or should I go Alonso or Aspi? That's a really good question. Thank you for tuning in. In my opinion, from Chelsea, the standout is Rudiger, but if Alonso can nail that spot, I think he's an exceptional, you know, player to have. But if I was ultimately picking between Rudiger and Alonso, at the time of this recording, obviously, I would go for Rudiger. But we'll have to wait and see. Let's see how Chelsea set up against Spurs. That'll be a good indication of what Tuchel thinks is his best team so far, because it's going to be the biggest game that he's managed since obviously arriving in London. And as for Hudson-Odoi, I think he might be a decent differential. However, I would probably hold off and wait and see a bit more consistency in terms of attacking output before going in for him. But if you are really confident in him, and obviously as a Chelsea fan you know what he can bring, then yeah, it might be worth the risk. Mickey Football World says, how comes you're not playing Gundogan? Who to start, Banford or Calvert-Lewin? Well, yeah, as I said before with Gundogan, it seems a bit criminal to bench him. And if we look actually in terms of expected goal involvements over the last 4 game weeks, Gundogan is 3rd of any midfielder, only behind Mane and Bruno. So obviously, excuse the voice crack, I do feel bad about benching Gundogan. But then again, I would feel bad about any of the others. You know, Son, Bamford, Calvert-Lewin, Antonio, Bruno, Salah, you know, they're out of the question. So yeah, I just find it really difficult to bench any of the others. Obviously, a lot of people would say, oh, look at the fixture, look at the form, you know, Son's the obvious pick. But I don't think it's as simple as that. And to be honest, maybe I could start Gundogan, and if he doesn't start at all, it's probably likely he won't come on at all, so then Antonio can come in. That's something I could do, and it's something that I had just before coming on air, but I'm not too sure, to be honest. And as for Bamford or Calvert-Lewin, I would try to start both of them, if I'm being honest. It's hard to predict. Bamford, most of his goals are scored away from home. And Calvert-Lewin, he's obviously not scored since game week 11. But I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. So obviously, it's a tough one. I couldn't split the two, I'll be honest. Is Bamford fit? He is fit. He confirmed it himself in an interview. He said he had a dead leg. He was limping towards the end of the game, but he should be fine. And Bielsa said that it's not a serious problem. So you would expect him to start. And if not, most of us have someone good on the bench. Like in my example, I've got Gundogan. He can come in, so probably shouldn't be an issue. Bench Son for DCL, Bamford, Antonio. Not for me. I know I might sound a bit, I don't know, playing it too safe, but I wouldn't bench Son in my opinion. It's just his explosiveness. I don't really care about the fact he's 50 or 60% owned. I really don't care. But I honestly wouldn't, get rid of Son, or should I say bench him. And to be honest, people are going to go from benching Son to maybe captaining him next week, which is a big, obviously, kind of difference. And to be fair, I've done something similar with Gundogan. I vice-captained him last week, and now he's on the bench. So it's a tough one. Hi Dylan, which one would you start out of, Dallas or Creswell or Soufal? First bench. I'm thinking of starting Dallas for the attacking potential, and Everton haven't been great going forward. I'd probably start... Out of those three, probably Dallas, but it's a tough one. I think the attacking potential, him playing in midfield, I'd probably do that. Yeah. Antonio or Gundogan to bench. I'd probably bench Gundogan. I don't know. I literally had Antonio on the bench before, so it's a 50-50 that one, I'll be honest. I think the best thing you can do is flip a coin. There's not much in between some of these players. And to be honest, one thing that kind of also put me off Gundogan, it doesn't mean it should put you off. City did beat Burnley 5-0 earlier this season, and Gundogan started and played all 90 minutes, and he didn't get a single goal or assist, not even a fantasy assist. But he is on penalties. You would expect him to start, and I was checking the Blue Moon forum, and most people expect him to start, really. The only kind of rotation doubts over kind of key FPL players is probably Diaz, giving him a rest ahead of the Liverpool game. But then again, we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Even though Salah is the standout for captaincy, is Fernandes due for a massive haul? Yeah, as I said earlier, I think Bruno is definitely due a massive haul. And if I didn't have Salah, Bruno would probably be my captain, to be honest. I don't think I'd captain anyone else. Maybe Cancelo. So yeah, I think Bruno would be the obvious one if you don't have Salah and you have the Man United playmaker. Who should I play? Holding, Dallas or Rafinha? That's a tough one. Rafinha is a doubt for the game, although he could still start. I think Holding is the most likely to get you 6 points out of the 3. But in terms of ceiling, Dallas and Rafinha offer a much higher ceiling. So that's a tough one. I can understand your kind of concerns. I'd probably go for Holding, but that's a really safe pick. And if you want to be a bit more ambitious and chase, maybe the kind of upside to it, then I'd go for Dallas or Rafinha. The people who own Dallas, like me, can use all-out attack chip, if you know. Yeah, that's true. Dallas is... He's a weird one, a lot of his goals actually come against the bigger sides where they don't keep clean sheets, and you probably bench him for it. But if you have like a situation where you have Cancelo and Stones not playing, then Dallas comes in and he's perfect for that. So yeah, I owned Dallas earlier this season, not for much though, I will admit, but he is pretty good. Antonio, Banford, DCL, which one to bench? Out of those three, maybe Antonio, but I just feel bad about that. Antonio, in terms of expected goal involvements over the last 4 or XG, he is top of any striker. So it kind of pains me to say, bench Antonio, especially when Villa have been a bit shaky recently defensively. But maybe out of those 3, him. But then again, maybe DCL's the obvious one, He hasn't scored since game week 11. Everton are just looking a bit flat. But then again, we all said this about Wilson and Banford. Everyone got rid of them or benched them, and then look what they did. So form can change so easily. That's why I'm looking at the fixture. I'm looking at what I think will happen. And I think if Calvert-Lewin gets supply, I think he'll score. Same with Banford. I highlighted it against Newcastle when he came off early. I said if people passed it to him more often, he could do something. But to be fair, he didn't really look, he looked out of sorts in that game. But then he produces a 15-point haul. So yeah, I'd probably go Antonio on the bench out of those 3. It's kind of tough. Captain Sterling, keep Son, or Son for Salah, and Captain Salah or Sterling. The thing is with Son, I already said this, I'd probably not get rid of him because he's got West Brom next week. So if anything, I just keep it as it is, Captain Sterling, and then next week... Well, to be fair, I don't think Sterling or Salah will do well next week or do particularly well. So that's a tough one. But I'd keep Son for next week. If it wasn't for West Brom, then maybe I'd get rid of him. But yeah, I'd just keep things as they are and captain Sterling. But if you did bring in Salah, I think he's the obvious pick this week. Why are you not benching Son? His explosive potential, pretty much. It's literally as simple as that. I know they're facing Chelsea, but it's Son. He's really good. He just needs one chance and he can get some points and some bonus. And with Gundogan, I think his minutes might be managed. And I'm not particularly sure at the moment. And to be honest, it's a decision between Antonio and Gundogan for me in terms of who starts. Should I bench Soucek or Rudiger? Good question. I'd probably bench Rudiger. But if you think Chelsea are going to keep a clean sheet, then why not play him, It's up to you. Hi, Dylan. Good luck this week. DCL or Gundogan bench? I'd probably bench Gundogan, but I don't know, man. In terms of form, in terms of stats, Gundogan's the clear winner. But I'm just looking at the fixture, and I think it really suits Calvert-Lewin. But then again, we said this about Newcastle, and look what happens. So you have to back your gut on that one. Unfortunately, I mean, I can give you my suggestion, but ultimately you have to trust your instincts. You might be onto something if you obviously go for someone else. Who should I captain? Salah, Bruno or Grealish? Worth taking a punt on Cancelo this week. For me, it'd probably be, Salah, Bruno or Cancelo, and I'd pick Salah. But it's up to you, you know. I think Bruno's due a haul, and he's not going to be as heavily captained as Salah this week, so he might be someone to worth looking at. Welcome, Ari. Thank you for joining in. Should I be getting James out or rolling transfer? Only got me 1 point over the last 2 weeks. Is that James? Yeah, I'd probably get rid of him, but maybe not for this game. Maybe after this game week when they have United. I wouldn't get rid of him this yet, but with Everton, I always say this. I think Calvert-Lewin, maybe Digne, they're the only ones really worth looking at. Not interested in anyone else right now, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm thinking of bringing in Jordan Ayew on a -4, and I also have Martinez, Cash, and Jack. Is it a risk? It is a risk. I wouldn't do it personally, but if you're really confident Ayew can haul, then go for it. But I wouldn't do that personally. Should I play Johnston or Martinez? I'd probably still go for Martinez, and me personally. I know a lot of people would say Johnston, but I think Martinez. Soufal or Digne to start? I'd probably go for Soufal, but if Digne puts in some good crosses and Calvert-Lewin is on the end of them, he can get some attacking returns. I'm not sure about clean sheet though. I think Soufal's a bit more likely. Start De Gea or Johnston, and also Holding or Wan-Bissaka. I'd start De Gea and Holding, in my opinion, but good luck with your decision. Welcome home, sweet home. Thoughts on Sterling? I think he's a decent captaincy option this week, but he has a poor record against Burnley, and he might have his minutes managed. You know, they have a very important game at the weekend. And I think in terms of captaincy, Bruno, Salah and Cancelo are the standouts, in my opinion. But we'll have to wait and see. I don't think Salah will score. Brighton's defence is looking solid. I think he will, but we'll have to wait and see. Brighton are looking pretty good, I'll admit. And that's something that has kind of, crossed my mind when thinking about Salah captaincy. But I think Liverpool will be too strong. It will be a close game, but I expect Liverpool to score 2 goals. And I expect Salah to be heavily involved. So that's why I'm going for him. Bench Son or Gundogan? I would probably bench Gundogan, in my opinion. I know that may sound a bit ridiculous, but I probably would. Just Son is too explosive, And he's one of the best FPL assets this season. So I know without Kane, Spurs have looked terrible. But we're really looking at, 135 minutes? It's a really small sample size. So yeah, I'd probably still start Son. You should get more credit, mate, and exposure, great content and great advice, and you reply to almost everyone. Yeah, thank you. And to be honest, I'm trying my best to reply to everyone, and I am well aware that I'm behind in terms of, trying to catch up, but I really appreciate your comment. Please rate my team. Martinez, Diaz, Dallas, Stones, Gundogan, Salah, Grealish, Bruno, Wilson, Antonio. That looks good. So long as you don't really have a selection headache, it's fine, There's no real weakness, especially this week. It looks pretty good. What is your bench? My bench is Gundogan, Soufal, Mitchell, as you can see on screen. And obviously in goal I do have Martinez. In bench I have DCL, Mitchell, Target. Yeah, that looks... DCL, maybe I'd be a bit hesitant about benching him, even Target. But yeah, that looks pretty solid. I'm trying to think. Maybe I would start DCL over Gundogan, but it's ultimately up to you, home sweet home. Foden or Smith Rowe? Probably neither, to be honest. If you want someone from City... I'd still say, in terms of midfield, I'd say Gundogan. And then from Arsenal, I think Saka's the standout pick. And I think Smith Rowe will start kind of rotating with Odegaard. Saka's a bit more nailed, I think. But yeah, Smith Rowe's a good one to have as a 5th option, But I wouldn't start him most weeks, if you know what I mean. Chilwell out? If yes, suggest some replacements. Or Rafinha out for Grealish. I probably would get rid of Rafinha for Grealish. And as for Chilwell replacements, I think if you're looking at the same team, Rudiger. If you don't have City defenders, go for one of them. And then there's Target, Justin, Luke Shaw. I think those are all standout replacements. Should I be getting out James? Not sure if he starts and only got me 1 point. Yeah, I answered that question already. No need to spam the chat. Great content. Always nice to tune in for your stream. Any thoughts on Martial? Not for me. From United, it's Bruno. And despite how poor he's been, I think Rashford. And in terms of defence, I think Shaw and Wan-Bissaka and Maguire, they're all decent options. But Martial, he's going to be rotating with Cavani. Not for me personally. Should I get Antonio in for Brewster? to replace Rafinha or hold a transfer? You could hold, to be fair. There could be plenty of goals in that game. But yeah, Antonio in for Brewster seems like a sensible move. And Antonio's going to be great for the next few fixtures, you know. Very good fixtures coming up. So yeah, I'd probably get that transfer done. Salah or Sterling for captain? For me, it's Salah. But in terms of obviously defensive stats, Burnley have been much worse than Brighton recently. And even across the whole season. But I would go for Salah. Hi Dylan, I brought in Mahrez for Foden because of Mahrez' goal-scoring trend versus Burnley. Do you think it's crazy to captain him while Salah also has a great record versus Burnley? Or I think you mean Brighton. I think yes. Thoughts? I think bringing in Mahrez might be a masterstroke. I don't know if I'd be captaining him though. I still would go for Salah, but it's up to you ultimately. And if you captain Mahrez and it pays off, then obviously you're laughing. So good luck with that. I would go for Salah captain, but bringing in Mahrez is actually not a bad shout for this week. Going forward, yeah, I'm not really interested in Mahrez, but looks pretty good. Salah or Sterling for captain? Yeah, Salah, and yeah, no need to spam the chat out. Yeah, I will put people on timeout. There's no need to spam. Which striker good for this week? I need to pick 2 strikers. Wilson, Antonio, DCL. That's a tough one, man. That's a really tough one. I'd probably start DCL, and it's between the other two. I'd still probably go for Antonio, but Wilson, I remember having him in my team when he got 12 points against Palace, so that's a really tough one. Best of luck with that decision. Should I play Antonio or Digne? I'd still go for Antonio in that case. Danielson, yeah, I'd go for Antonio. Should I bench Son for Soucek and Gundogan? I wouldn't bench Son, not for me personally, and I'd even start them, or should I say start him over the other two. Should I get rid of Reece James? If you have 4 other good defenders, then you could just hold and then do it next week. But yeah, you could get rid of Reece James from Chelsea. Keep an eye on Alonso, and in my opinion, right now the standout is Rudiger. In my opinion, you're 1 point ahead of me. What to do for next week? Should I roll a transfer if I can and hope Chilwell plays, or do a transfer and risk not knowing the cup results? Well, if you're looking really towards game week 26 and even potentially the double game week in 24, then maybe just hold. But I wouldn't expect Chilwell to start this week. Alonso has a great record against Spurs, and he obviously played really well against Burnley. DCL's about to haul. I mean, I'd hope so. I took a -4 to get the guy in, and he cost me the Banford points. So yeah, I hope he does play, and he does really well. Hola Dylan, ¿jugarías a Martinez o Johnston en el arco? Martinez. Ya lo dijo antes, pero sí, Martinez para mí es... Yo sé que West Ham y son bastante buenos, pero para mí Aston Villa y Martinez, él puede tener todos los puntos de bonus y sí, para mí Martinez es claro. Con Johnston no sé. Sheffield va a ser un partido difícil y West Brom son malísimos defensivamente, así que voy a ir con Martinez. Thank you for your question, Stefan. Hi Dylan, start Justin or Dallas or transfer injured KWP for someone like Shaw or Holding who have good fixtures. Was planning on rolling before I heard Leicester are hit heavily with injuries. That's a good question. I would probably go for Justin, only just though. No pun intended. And as for getting rid of Kyle Walker-Peters, they have good fixtures, but, well, should I say Holding has a good fixture now, but going forward, not too great fixtures, you know. But yeah, if you're getting rid of Kyle Walker-Peters, get Shaw, Holding or Rudiger in my opinion. And as for Justin or Dallas, yeah, start Justin. And you don't need to make that transfer this week if you already have enough defensive cover and you already have a selection headache in terms of Justin and Dallas. When will Kane be back? Apparently he's going to be back within 2 to 3 weeks. So for the West Brom game, you would expect him not to be back unless they're playing, you know, wool over our eyes or whatever. And Kane plays against Chelsea. You never know, but I doubt it. And I think he's out for... you know, the next 2 to 3 weeks. Should I bench Digne or Antonio? I would bench Digne. I already answered that question, Danielson. If you had to play one between Dallas and Soufal, which one? Probably Dallas, just for the attack and returns. I swear to God, Son will blank. Watch me whip and watch me nay, bro. Oh, don't say that. And transfer out Reece James. Yeah, I think so. If not, just wait for next week and then do that. Dylan says team Martinez, Diaz, Cancelo, Dallas, Digne, Gundogan, Salah, Grealish, Bruno, Antonio, Banford. Bench, Soucek, Soufal, Adams. Best 11 or transfers. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And to be fair, going forward, there's no real weakness there. Yeah, that looks pretty fine. Maybe Adams, I think he's the weakness. And yeah, you could go for DCL. Even Wilson if you want, or Watkins. But yeah, Adams is looking pretty useless. So are Southampton. They may change their form, but I think there are better options. Bench one, Gundogan, Watkins or Banford. I'd bench Watkins probably out of those 3, but it's a tough one. Yeah, sorry, I had to put someone on timeout. Chelsea Blue says Grealish captain. He might be a good differential. He's got a decent record against West Ham, but for me personally, Salah, Cancelo, and Bruno Fernandes, they're the best three. Barnes or Grealish this week? I still prefer Grealish, but yeah, Barnes, if Leicester are going to do something, you would expect it to be Barnes in Vardy's absence. My dilemma is whether to go for Barnes, Maddison, or Grealish. Would have to be a -4 for Grealish, as I have Nyland's second keeper. Ooh, that's a good question. I would still go for Grealish though. But Barnes and Maddison look decent. If I had to pick now between Barnes and Maddison, it's Barnes. But then again, Leicester, very inconsistent team. And Grealish, in my opinion, for his price, is the best. So yeah, I'd go for Grealish. I was referring to Reece James. Sorry, just realised you're reading the chat slower. Yeah, Reece James. I'd probably get rid of him, but if you can wait for next week and do it. Start Soucek or Digne? I'd start Digne. Play Wilson or Gundogan? Good question. I would probably play Wilson, actually. I'm not sure, but yeah, probably him. Is having Mane and Salah in the same team bad? Not necessarily, but I think Mane's going to miss this game week. It's a really serious possibility, so I'd probably get rid of Mane, but it's up to you. Barnes or Grealish for the coming weeks? I know Barnes is playing amazing. I'd still go for Grealish. Larry Bird. Son or Banford? That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. For this game week, I'd still probably say Son, but maybe I'm being a bit stubborn there. Is it worth bringing Wilson in against Crystal Palace for this week? I'm not sure. Not for me. I'd still wait and see with Newcastle. One really good performance. Wilson still missed a lot of chances, but I'd probably wait and see with Newcastle. Which two players should I start between DCL, Watkins and Antonio? Yeah, DCL and Antonio. Gundogan or Banford, who to bench? That's a tough one. I'd probably bench, maybe Gundogan. I'm not sure, man. There's not much in between these decisions, and to be honest, I'm having a similar dilemma. I could literally bench Banford, I could bench Gundogan, I could bench Lewin, Antonio, Son. I'd probably just go for Banford, but that's a tough one. Getting a feeling that Banford will blank and DCL will haul. Well, I got both of them, so hopefully one of them does something. It would be a shame if both of them blank. Hey mate, transferring Grealish, Soucek, Pereira, Watkins or Trent for this week. My team: De Gea, Diaz, Stones, Creswell, Smith Rowe, Mane, Salah, Gundogan, Barnes, Antonio, Banford. I'd probably say Grealish, maybe in for Mane, because I think it's a big doubt that Mane will play. And if he does start, or he plays a part, I think his minutes will be managed ahead of the Liverpool game, or should I say the City game, and that's going to be a tough game in itself. So I'd probably get rid of Mane for Grealish, and if not, I know obviously they have City next week, but Trent is nailed, and he's still a great option. Maybe he'd be my second choice out of those lot. Pereira's a great differential. People have been mentioning him to me, and he's still doing well, and I just don't trust West Brom, but if you want someone different, Pereira could be very, very good. Should I bench Watkins, Banford or Son? Watkins for me, Craig. Trent or Robertson? This is 50-50 in my opinion. Robertson hasn't been as good recently. Over the season, he's the clear winner. So yeah, I went for Trent personally because he's a bit of a differential. His record against Brighton and the positions he's taken up are really impressive. So I went for Trent, but not much in between them. Who do I bench out? Banford, Calvert and Watkins, Barnes and Gundogan. Tough decision it is. I would probably bench Watkins in that case, but it's really tough. Banford, Watkins, Wilson, choose two. Probably Banford and Wilson. But maybe I'm not giving Watkins enough credit. He's been decent recently. I just think his ceiling isn't as high, and I know he did really well against Liverpool and Arsenal, but on the whole, he tends to get maybe 6 points, not really on the bonus so much. If Wilson scores, he's going to be on free bonus most likely, and Banford is Banford, Bench one of Maddison, DCL, Banford, Antonio. Oh, that's a tough one. Maybe Antonio, but that's a tough one. Soufal or Bellerin? For this game week, I would start Bellerin, but Bellerin's not someone I would want to have in the long term. When Tierney's back, there's a possibility Cedric goes to the right back and Bellerin is benched, which has been happening actually. Is it time to add Josh King back? He was a good asset. Yeah, not for me. I'd have to wait and see for him. And from Everton, yeah, it's really just DCL in my opinion, and maybe Digne. Bench DCL or Banford? Maybe Banford. That might seem bold, but yeah, I think Banford gets most of his goals away from home. Doesn't really mean anything anyway, At the end of the day, he can do something, but yeah, if you had to pick between the two, I'd probably bench Banford. When you spoke Spanish, it was muy caliente, lol. I am a female before anyone says anything. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Mickey Football World. Didn't expect that comment. Mesley or Martinez? I'm having Antonio or Creswell playing against Villa. I would go for Martinez in my opinion, and I'm having Antonio Creswell. Yeah, I'd still go for Martinez. With Meslier, nah, I just don't see a clean sheet there. It could happen. I just prefer Martinez. I sold Mane for Salah, no hit. Good move? I think it could be, because I just don't know if Mane's going to start. I really doubt it. And Salah, probably the best captaincy option this week, and he's got a great record in Mane's absence. Arnold says, hey Dylan, quick thoughts on my team. Martinez, Cancelo, Dallas, Holding, Salah, Bruno, Sterling, Gundogan, Rashford, Banford, DCL. Thoughts? That looks pretty good. Going forward, I know Rashford has some good fixtures around Game Week 24 and 25. Maybe he's someone worth getting rid of, or Sterling after this game week. But yeah, for this game week, it looks good. But you know what? Maybe one of your transfer plans going into Game Week 23 is getting rid of Sterling. But we'll have to wait and see how they do first. DCL versus Zaha versus Gundogan. Bench one, please. Wow, that's a tough one. I would start DCL, and it's between the other two. And because I think his minutes will be managed, maybe go for Zaha. But I don't know. Gundogan can still do really well, and I might be looking at more points on my bench, so I'm not sure about that one. But definitely start DCL in my opinion. Okay, how about Bernardo Silva or Son? Son for me. Start him over Bernardo in my opinion. Thinking Adams to Wilson or Soucek to Barnes and dropping Dallas to the bench. Only one transfer. Probably Adams to Wilson in that case. But as I said before, earlier when asked about Wilson, I would want to see a bit more consistency, because if you think about it, Wilson before the last two games, he blanked, 5, 6, 7 times in a row. He's a very streaky player, whether in a good way or in a bad way. Johnston over Martinez, not for me. I think West Brom might win that game, but I just don't see a clean sheet for West Brom. They're so poor defensively, so I'd go for Martinez. If he doesn't keep the clean sheet, he can get save points, and he's still on for bonus. He's very important to Villa. Probably their best player along with Grealish. I hope Salah gets... Okay, no, I'm not even going to read these comments anymore. Bench Mings or Dallas? I have Martinez in goal. Ooh, that's a tough one. Yeah, I'd bench Mings, because you already have Martinez as cover, and Dallas has those attacking returns, so I would do that Parva, and hopefully that helps. Gaeta or Johnston for keepers this week? Ooh, that's a tough one. You got both of them. That's a really weird goalkeeping combination. I don't think Palace are going to keep a clean sheet against Newcastle. I'll probably go for Johnston, but there's not much to split them. Saka or Antonio or Dallas or Justin or Soucek? Bench 2 players. That's really tough. I'd probably bench Soucek, famous last words, and probably Dallas out of those, maybe. Yeah, that's what I'll probably do. Bench Nathaniel Phillips or Creswell? Just bench Creswell, I guess. But I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure if Liverpool will keep a clean sheet. And I say that, and I brought Arnold in, but yeah. More likely to get a clean sheet than Creswell. But Creswell's ceiling is much higher, so it depends what kind of manager you are. Are you safe, or are you going to chase that upside and that attacking potential? But I just don't see it with Creswell this week. Ings or Son, who to bench? I would bench Ings, in my opinion. But that's just me. DCL versus Zaha Gundogan, yeah, I already answered that. I have Antonio play Johnston versus Sheffield or Martinez. That's a tough one. I'd still go for Martinez. Obviously, I'm weighing up the fact that you already have Antonio. It's not ideal, but I still prefer Martinez. KWP to Rudiger, done. Fair enough. That's something I could be doing next week, but instead it'll be Mitchell. And I just got rid of Kyle Walker-Peters for Arnold. Good luck to you. Hopefully it works out. Although maybe not this week, because I do want Son to do something, because otherwise I'm probably going to be thinking, why didn't I bench this guy? But it is what it is. Yeah, apologies. I'm just going to be putting people on timeout who spam the chat. There's no need to... I know, obviously, I'm trying to answer in as much detail as possible, but yeah, there's no need to spam the chat. I will be answering your questions. Thoughts on my team? Martinez, Cancelo, Stones, Holding, Barnes, Pereira, Salah, Bruno, Sterling, DCL and Antonio. Bench, Watkins, Creswell and Dallas. You know what? I actually probably agree with how you've structured it. Yeah, maybe not Pereira, but then again... I know his points I don't think are sustainable, but the fixture, his form, you can't really go against it. He's maybe the only question mark I would have, but yeah, I agree with that, to be honest. Antonio, Wilson, Banford and Gundogan, which 3 of these do I start? Out of those 4, who do you bench? Probably Gundogan, if not maybe Wilson, but that's a tough one. Johnston or Martinez? Yeah, Martinez, I already answered this question plenty of times. Dallas or Soufal, who to start? Yeah, Dallas. Son for Grealish. Nah, I mean, Son has got West Brom next week. I would hold. After that, then do that move. But for now, I don't think that's worth it. I have both, so it's a bit easier for me to say. But I wouldn't get rid of Son ahead of West Brom. I definitely wouldn't. I have Antonio play Johnston or Martinez. I'd play Martinez. Chismay, always love the stream. Good luck for this week. Need to head for physics class. Physics class, well, good luck. Physics was a very interesting subject, wasn't it? Quite difficult as well. Good luck, Arnab, and thank you for joining in. McCarthy or Meslier? I'd probably go for Meslier, but both are looking really poor. And obviously, if you could make a keeper transfer, I probably would in your case. Yeah, but I'd probably just go for Meslier. Should I start holding or target or Mitchell? Out of those three, I would start holding. Target first bench, Mitchell second. Really considering captaining Cancelo because of Burnley's poor defence in the past couple of game weeks. Considered the most shots, really torn between him and Salah. That's fair enough, the scrambler. There's literally not much between them. You could literally just vice-captain the other. And if Cancelo doesn't play, hopefully, well, you'd be expecting or hoping for him not to come on. But yeah, I think he's going to start. And maybe his minutes will be managed. But yeah, I think Cancelo's a great captaincy shout this week. What are your plans for double game week 26 and blank game week 29? Well, I've already used my free hit. So obviously I can't do that. So the possibilities I have is either wildcarding in game week 25, maybe 24, and bench boosting in game week 26, and then using free transfers to kind of, build towards game week 29, but not too much because there's going to be a lot of blanks in that game week anyway. And if not, if I can build a double game week team without using my wildcard, what I'll do is literally do the exact same thing, bench boost in 26, but not play my second wildcard up until after game week 29, so I can literally dead end my team, make some transfers, get as many game week 29 players as possible, and then after that I can literally just wildcard them out, because obviously they may not be particularly great assets going up until game week 38. So that's my plan at the moment. I'm keeping things open, but I think bench boosting in game week 26 is almost a certainty in my case. Schmeichel, Cancelo, Diaz, Trent, Justin, Gundogan, Salah, Maddison, Zaha, Pereira. But which striker shall I pick? Werner, Banford, or Wilson, or DCR? Definitely not Werner. Just eliminate him from that. Probably Banford and DCL. Obviously, if you had to pick one for this game week, I think DCL. But he let us down last week, so let's see what he does. Will Banford be playing? He will be playing, unless Bielsa doesn't want to risk it, but he said he'll be fine. Banford himself said he'll be fine. So it would be a big shock if he doesn't play. Do you think Kane will be back for West Brom? I don't think so. According to reports, Kane is going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks from now. So he's probably going to miss that West Brom game and 1 or 2 game weeks afterwards. Bench one of Antonio, Wilson, or Banford? Probably, yeah. I'd start Banford, but that's a tough one, man. It's really tough. Maybe Wilson, but then again, maybe 1 second I'll say Wilson, the other one I'll say Antonio. There's not much to split them, honestly. So just trust your instincts. And if you have points on your bench, there's not much you can do. Obviously, you just have to hope it's not a 15-point haul like it was for me with Banford. But yeah, Son for Zaha? No, not for me, because Son has West Brom next week. I have to keep saying this with Son. I think if you want to get rid of him, that's fair enough, but I would keep him for the West Brom game, then get rid. Because he's going to be the standout captaincy option for that week, or at least top 3. Bench Pedro Neto or Wan-Bissaka? I'd bench Neto. I'm a bit biased as an Arsenal fan maybe, but yeah, I'd probably start Wan-Bissaka. What keeper? Yeah, my keeper's Martinez. Ziyech looked like such a good FPL asset at the start of the season. Yeah, he did, and I was actually really tempted to get him in. And in a wildcard video I made, I thought he could be, a great differential at the time. He continued his form for a bit, and then he just tailed away. He got an injury. And to be fair, so did Chelsea. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see with Ziyech. To be honest, with Chelsea, I'm only interested in the defence. So Rudiger, maybe Alonso. Apart from that, too much rotation in attack and on the wing backs and all that. And in the midfield. So Rudiger would probably be my standout pick. I'm really sorry I'm working and hence I probably missed your answer again. Is it worth bringing in Wilson? It could be worth it, but for me, no. I don't think so. Will help me not start Soucek, who I'm really not wanting to start. Yeah, but then again, Soucek could still do well for you. But if you really don't want to start Soucek, then just bring Wilson in. But, maybe Calvert-Lewin, Banford, Antonio, maybe they're still better options up front than Wilson. With Newcastle, I need to see consistency because, they've let me down so many times this season. Who should I captain, Salah or Sterling? For me, it's Salah. But ultimately, back your gut. Sterling's record is fairly poor against Burnley, but yeah, just back your gut with that one. I will go for Salah though. Hey mate, should I play Chilwell or James Justin? James Justin for sure. I'd go for him. Should I bring in Martinez for McCarthy or Konsa for Cody? That's a tough one. I would probably bring in Konsa for Cody, I think, actually. Although Martinez is a big upgrade on McCarthy, and I would suggest it, I think Konsa's a better move. Although, personally, if you want a Villa asset, I would go for Target if you want a defender. And if not, there's other options, Rudiger, Holding, Justin. There's plenty of options around that price that you could get in for Cody. And yeah, Martinez is probably the best keeper in the game, along with Pope. Do you think it's worth to switch McCarthy into Martinez now? Got Target. Yeah, double defense isn't particularly good, but you know what? It's probably better than having a Southampton defender at the moment. Maybe it is. If you don't want to absorb a transfer, then go for it. Do you think Aston Villa versus West Ham will have many goals? Personally, I don't think there'll be too many goals. But I think if West Ham score, Antonio's going to be involved. That's how I see it. And if Martinez keeps a clean sheet, he's probably going to get some bonus points or some save points or whatever. That's why I've got both of them starting. It's a bit of a clash. And I've got Gundogan on the bench, unfortunately. What I may do is revert to what I had earlier in the day and have Gundogan in for Antonio. And if Gundogan is rested, play Antonio. But yeah, I think the max amount of goals I see in that game is maybe 3. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Son or Bruno as captain? Definitely not Son as captain. I advocate keeping him, but I would not captain him this week. Bruno is definitely a clear in my opinion. Who should I captain? Sterling, Maddison, anyone else? It depends who you have. I'd say Salah or Cancelo or Bruno. Those would be my picks. But from those two you mentioned, I'd probably go for Sterling, but I don't know. I'm not too convinced about Sterling this week. Salah or Fernandes? Why did everyone captain Salah after the West Ham game? Don't you think Bruno may shine today? I'll be honest. I had Salah captain before the West Ham game. I already had him captain for this week. I said it, and Bruno was my vice. I think Bruno is due a haul. I've said this a few times in this stream. You could go either way, but in my opinion, I would go for Salah. And the fact that Mane is most likely missing the game, that fills me with confidence about a Salah haul, despite how good Brighton have been. So yeah, Salah's the clear one for me, but it's a tough one. Who to bench? Banford, Son, Bernardo Silva. I'd probably bench Bernardo Silva, believe it or not. I've got Sterling. Should I captain him over Salah, given that he may not play the full 90 minutes with City looming in on Sunday? Yeah, but then it could go for Sterling as well. And City have more options to rotate with Sterling than Liverpool do with Salah, especially with Minamino now going to Southampton. So, yeah, in my opinion, I'd still captain Salah, but it's up to you. Martinez or Johnston? Martinez for me. Would Banford start? I think so. And if not, I've got options on my bench in my case, but he will play, in my opinion. I'd be very shocked if he doesn't start. I'd be very, very shocked. Hi, mate. Is it worth targeting Leicester players like Justin and Barnes? I'd say targeting a Leicester player, not players. So, yeah, one of them would be fine. Having both, I'm not so sure. I'd wait until Vardy's back, and to be fair, I think he's going to return at the weekend. And Leicester will improve as a result, and they'll be much better. But yeah. As out of those two, I don't know, maybe Justin, because there's fewer options in defence, in my opinion, at the moment. And with Barnes, you could still get Grealish for his price. But yeah, still both good options. However, I wouldn't double or triple up on Leicester, me personally. Should I sell Salah for Sterling for -4 points? No, not for me. Especially for a hit, no chance. I started from Game Week 2 now on 1,293 points. The funny thing is this channel actually helped me surpass you, yeah. Yeah, well, actually, starting in Game Week 2, that's a big kind of turnaround, I think I got around 70 points in the first week, so yeah, that's pretty good. And to be honest, last month or so I've been stagnating. It's been very poor for me, but looking to bounce back. Have you used Triple Captain yet? Who are you planning to use it on if you haven't already? I haven't used my Triple Captain, and I always say this with Triple Captain, I'm targeting Salah, Bruno, Son or Kane probably, and it'll be during a smaller double game week. That's just my plan for a double, or should I say the Triple Captaincy. Should I play Dallas and Meslier or Dallas and Fabianski? Dallas and Fabianski, certainly. Dallas and Fabianski. What do you think is Mahrez will start today? I think Mahrez will start, but I couldn't guarantee you that. And in the Blue Moon forums with full of Manchester City fans, a lot of them thought Mahrez would start, but yeah, it's not completely, nailed on. And Mahrez is just one of those frustrating picks. He can do exceptional. He can get you 20 plus points, or he could get you 1 or 2 points, or not play at all. But I think he will play. Should I start Banford, Wilson, or DCL? I have 5 midfielders: Salah, Son, Bruno, Barnes, Gundogan. Yeah, from those 3, it's a flick of a coin, really. I'd probably bench Wilson. Thank you, Sean, for your comment. Start Martinez or Johnston? Martinez. A lot of people with these double up, but yeah, I've answered it plenty of times today, and Martinez is the clear winner in my opinion, but we'll have to wait and see. Back your gut, ultimately. I have to keep saying this. Back your gut. I'm just offering my opinion. I prefer Martinez. Hey Dylan, hope you're well. Do I bench Gundogan, Watkins, DC or Banford? For me, Lewis, it'd be Watkins, but thank you for your comment, and ultimately just trust your instincts. That's the most important thing. Pereira for Soucek? Nah, not for me. Soucek is a good option to have from your bench. Pereira might get some hauls here and there, especially recently, and I do think the points are unsustainable. But then again, we did say this about Soucek, but I wouldn't do that. Chilwell or James Justin, whom to start? Yeah, I already said James Justin. I already answered your question, Partha. Start Creswell or Dallas? Yeah, Dallas probably. Pereira for Soucek? No. Fabianski or Johnston this game week? That's a tough one. I'd probably just about go for Johnston, actually, in this case. Creswell or Soufal? Probably Creswell. There's not much to split them. Soufal offers much better value, but yeah, no, I'm not sure about that. Hi Dylan, Dallas or Target? I'd probably go for Target, actually, because of his attacking potential. So does Dallas, but Target is more likely to keep a clean sheet, despite how good West Ham are. Thoughts on Son and Rudiger for Soucek and KWP next week? Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'd make those moves next week. However, I would hold off those moves this week. Captain Grealish or Bruno? Bruno for me. I think you asked me this already, Aranya. I think, yeah, Bruno or Salah. The standouts. Grealish is a decent differential, but Bruno, I think he's due a haul. And Southampton have been awful recently in terms of their defence, their attack, everything. To be fair, Romeo is back. That's going to help them. Walker-Peters is going to be back soon, although maybe not for the United game. But Southampton have a lot of injuries at the back still. Sterling captain? I wouldn't personally. Even if I had him, I probably wouldn't. But you never know. This might be the time that he finally hauls against Burnley. Sterling or Bruno captain? Most people in my league have Bruno and will probably captain. Yeah, don't worry about that too much. But I think Bruno's the better captain. Just go for who you think is going to get the most points. Obviously, that sounds simple, but it's the most important thing. Don't just think about ownership, who has this or who has that. Don't think about cancelling out. Just think about who you think is going to do really well. And me personally, I think it's going to be Bruno. Bednarek or Chilwell to start? To be honest, I'd probably just put Chilwell in, but I expect both of them to blank. I expect Chilwell to actually not even start the game. Although, with Tuchel, actually, maybe it's a bit foolish to already predict what he's going to do. Maybe Chilwell will start this game. Took a -8 for Fernandes and DCL and also put Salad captain. That's some big moves. I wouldn't recommend hits. I've 3 weeks in a row, I took a -8, a -8 and a -4. Fair enough, the -8, the first one, did pay off with Stones for the double game week, but then the -8 after and the -4, it's cost me. It's cost me so many points. So I would recommend just keeping things as they are and making minimal transfers if you can, and analysing the best assets going into the rest of the season. But hopefully those moves work out for you. Zaha, captain for differential this week. If you're looking for a differential, Grealish, Zaha, even Cancelo potentially. I think they're good, differentials. Maybe Trent if you're feeling a bit brave. But for me personally, I'm not going to go differential. I'm just going to go with who I think is going to be the highest scoring this week. And we'll have to wait and see if that pays off. But Zaha could be a good one. Need 3 defenders between Cancelo, Justin, Stones and Creswell. Cancelo, Stones and Justin I would go for. Hey man, just joined. I can play 2 of Holding, Wan-Bissaka, Maguire or Soucek. What do you think and which should be first on the bench? I'd play Holding and I'd play Wan-Bissaka. And first on your bench, probably Maguire and second Soucek, but maybe that's going to come back to bite you. You could always just put Soucek first and Maguire second, but yeah, to be honest, Wan-Bissaka or Maguire, there's not much to split them. Just whoever you think is going to be more likely to score or assist. But I'd play 1 United defender and Holding, and I'd bench the other 2. Martinez or Fabianski? Martinez for me. Thank you, Larry. Who to bench, Saka or Watkins? Wow, that's a tough one. I'd probably bench Saka in that case, and he's a bit, he's less likely to start. I think he will. But that could, if Saka starts, there's a big chance he's involved in whatever Arsenal do. So that's a really tough one to answer. Mendy or Martinez? I still prefer Martinez in my opinion. Favourite Premier League asset of all time? Well, I haven't been playing for long, so I can't really, go back to the days of Ronaldo or Suarez or stuff like that, which obviously it probably would have been up there for me. But to be honest, favourite captain or favourite asset, I'd probably say Salah. He's up there. I'm trying to think of others. Vardy last season was, a hero for me. I brought him in for his streak, so he's up there. Lundstrom for what he did last season. You can't forget these things. But the most consistent, the guy who's always there is Salah. But yeah, it's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I'd have to think about it, to maybe think of some better players, because there's definitely others that I've forgotten about. Even Bruno, since he's come in, he's been very good. Who is on your bench? Yeah, believe it or not, I've got Gundogan on my bench. I've got Soufal and Mitchell. So yeah, not particularly great there. I'm gambling on Sterling captain. I have Salah and Fernandes, but like you said, go with who you think will score the most points. Yeah, I mean, because a lot of people want to go different. They might be in a bad rank and they want to go up, and that's understandable. But for me, you just got to go with who you think is going to get the most points. That's obviously what you have to go for. And if it doesn't work out, then you'll maybe have better luck next time. But yeah, I think personally, despite how good Brighton have been, it's Salah. But there's a lot of good captaincy options this week. Just like most weeks this year, it's been very difficult to predict. I'm not with DCL this week. Should I be afraid? Nah, I wouldn't say be afraid, to be honest, because a lot of people said this about Newcastle. And then look what happened. It was a complete disaster. So yeah, I don't think you should be afraid of not having anyone, to be honest. If you have a good team overall, maybe most of them will blank, but you have one or two who will always do well for you. So yeah, I wouldn't be afraid, especially with DCL. Grealish or Maddison in? Grealish for me. The fixture maybe favours Maddison, but Fulham are decent and Grealish is the better long-term option. That's for me personally. Martinez or Johnston? Have to put the season on timeout. I've already answered this question already, and there's no need to spam the chat, but Martinez is my answer. Hey Dylan, Phillips, Rudiger, Dallas, start one. Oof, that's a tough one. I'd probably go for Dallas because of the attacking potential, but maybe Phillips and Rudiger are more likely to keep a clean sheet, to be honest. Do you think I should captain Bruno or Sterling? Bruno, in my opinion, Barry, but back your gut. If you think Sterling's going to do well, then go for him, You don't want to regret something like that. We're only 3 minutes away from the deadline. I'll be answering any final questions. Hey, just started watching. What do you think? De Gea or Martinez and Wan-Bissaka or Holding? I think I've answered this question before, and I'm pretty sure I said De Gea and Holding. I think that's what I said. I have the same backline as you. Cancelo and Stones didn't play last week, so what do you think about that? Pretty much Diaz is the only nailed guy. But I think Cancelo, in terms of his attacking potential, his points will balance out over the season. And as for Stones, maybe someone to keep an eye on. With Laporte coming back, he might be more subject to rotation, especially when the Champions League is back in a few weeks' time. So on a wild card, I think I might go for Diaz for Stones. So very good question. Thank you for that. Soufal Soucek in the first 11 or Kilman? Not Kilman for me. I'd probably say Soufal first. And Soucek first sub, Kilman second sub, or whatever. I asked you 3 different ways to assure benching Son, but you never wavered, always choosing Son. Anyway, this is a thank you post. Well, to be honest, I have to keep saying this, you just have to back your instincts, because I might be wrong about Son this week, but then I might be right about him next week, or vice versa. We don't know what's going to happen. I just personally think I just look at who is most likely to get a lot of points, who's got the highest ceiling. And although Son isn't likely because of the opponent, I just think his ceiling is too high to ignore. And I don't want to have another case of having maybe 7 to 15 points on my bench from one player. But then again, it could happen with Gundogan, maybe even Soufal. Who knows at this point? We're bound to get these decisions wrong. I tend to just have a kind of formed 11, and then I have defenders to rotate between, and I have one bench fodder from midfield or attack. So I don't like having 8 attackers, but it is what it is. Son might be the wrong one, but he might be the right one. Just back your gut. I'm just offering my opinion after all, but thank you for your comment. Sterling for captaincy, not for me. I think Salah, Bruno or Cancelo. Gundogan in for Soucek. If you think Gundogan will start, and you think he's going to play most minutes, then yeah, I would do that. But I don't know, tough fixtures coming up ahead. He might get rotated, and I think Soucek a bit more nailed, and maybe someone you'd be a bit more willing to bench, although obviously he's a bit of a famous case, isn't he? Zaha for Son, bro. I have 2 free transfers. I already answered your question, Joaquim, and I've said no. It's up to you. Just because I said no doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. You ultimately have to back what you... you just have to go with what you think, Antonio or Gundogan? I mean, that's literally the thing that has been crossing my mind all day. I'll be honest, I'm not sure at all. Yeah, it's going to backfire whatever I do, I think. And I'm sure a lot of you will feel the same way. Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. Thank you, Miguel. Hello, is it a good idea to sell Sterling for Salah for a -4? I'd probably hold for this week. Unless you're going to captain Salah and you're confident in him, then in that case, take the -4 and Salah's the better option going forward. De Gea or Johnston? De Gea for me, Ari. How much do you think Salah will score? I think 2 goals, and if not 1. I'd be surprised if he blanks or if he scores a hat-trick, but yeah, 1 or 2 goals, maybe an assist. Deadline shortly, captain check, bench order of priority check. Yeah, same here, to be honest. I mean, the deadline has already passed. And yeah, am I going to regret benching Gundogan? Maybe. But I'm probably going to regret any of these. If they all haul, what can I do? As long as I have a good week, I'm not too bothered. You're always going to have points in your bench. You think Chua will be benched even if he's happy with Alonso? Wouldn't it be a lot to play him twice in 4 days when he's not been without much training for that long? Well, to be honest, I know with Lampard he was being frozen out, but I do think Alonso was training still. And yeah, why not? I think if Tuchel finds an 11 he likes, I think he'll go with the players he thinks are best equipped to win the game. So if you look at Alonso's record against Spurs, it's phenomenal, you know. And I'm not just talking about FPL perspective. I'm talking about what he brings for Chelsea, you know, the free kicks he scored against them, you know, the goals, everything, the assists. So in my opinion, I'm not saying Chilwell's definitely not going to start, but if I had him, I'd sell him. Because even if he did start, he's going to be rotating with Alonso every now and then. So he's not someone I'd want to have. Rudiger, I'd keep an eye on. Alonso, if he's nailed, yes, I would keep an eye on. But I think Rudiger's the standout. Watkins for Banford. Change Banford to Watkins. Bench Digne or Dallas? There's not much in between that, to be honest. I'd probably bench, I don't even know, to be honest. Maybe Digne, but maybe that's foolish. I benched DCL from the same front 8. Fair enough. He's someone I actually considered, not just because of the blank, but just how poor Everton have been. But then again, I did the same thing with Banford and it backfired massively. So recency bias is a thing. You have to also just think about these teams can change their form, and if they have service, if Calvert-Lewin or Banford have service, they're going to score goals. Same with Antonio. I might regret benching Gundogan, but it is what it is. He's first on my bench, Sufal second, Mitchell third, and hopefully it's not as disastrous as last week was, where pretty much the difference between a good week and a bad week was my bench, because such fine margins, and if you have Banford on the bench with 15, you're just going to suffer. Once again, good luck this week. Hope you enjoy the games this week. United versus Southampton, Villa versus West Ham, and Chelsea versus Spurs are the standout games for me. I agree. Maybe not too interested in United versus Southampton, but the other two, yeah, I definitely am. And good luck to you as well. And yeah, we're going to need that luck. Locked in, yeah? We're locked in, and this is what we're dealt with. And hopefully all of you have a good week. Hopefully you captain the one, obviously, that gets the most points for you, and you have a decent bench that obviously doesn't outscore your main 11. It's going to be very interesting. Anyone captaining Cancelo? That's a very good question. And I've seen a lot of people captaining him, but in the chat, that'll be interesting to see if anyone has done that. Thank you. I'm going to hold with this Sterling Salah move. Good luck. Yeah, well, good luck to you as well. I just think with Sterling against Liverpool, he has an awful record at Anfield. Although Salah, I don't expect him to haul against City. He could still get a goal or something. That's not to say Sterling can't, but I would prefer Salah going forward. But for this week, Sterling can still do really well, so maybe it's not worth a -4. That's how I see it, but hopefully it does well. Gundogan benched also in favour of Zaha. Ooh, fair enough. That would be a tough one. If I had Zaha and Gundogan, I don't know, I'd be probably even more torn than I am now. But yeah, we may regret it, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Deadline has passed, I think. Yeah, it has 2 minutes ago or 3 minutes ago now. Yeah. Wow. Well, we've got another deadline in a few days' time, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, these are the fixtures. Sheffield, West Brom, Wolves, Arsenal. Very early kickoffs. And in less than half an hour, we'll know the team sheets. So if any of you have Saka, for example, going to be very interesting to see what happens here. But Banford blank 3 games DCL since game week 11. Yeah, exactly. But then again, Bruno's, in terms of official goals and assists, he's blanked every game week since what? Game week 17? So this happens, you know. Not everyone's like Messi or Ronaldo who are going to score pretty much every single week. And DCL, in my opinion, he was actually looking decent, believe it or not, against Newcastle. It's just he had no service. Whenever the ball went to him, he held it up well. He was decent. But he just had no service. And the fact that Leeds are so poor defensively, even if recently, they might have improved a bit or whatever, and they've kept plenty of clean sheets, I just think that if Everton are smart, if their creative players are putting in some good service, I think Calvert-Lewin can have a field day. But we'll have to wait and see. Habla en español y explicarle a esta gente lo que es Rosario Central. Yeah, maybe one day I'll do that one day. Son is my captain. I wanted to be different. Fair enough, and it might turn out well for you, but I don't know. Son is someone I wouldn't want to get rid of yet. I'd want to see a bit more. If Spurs are still really poor without Kane, then maybe it's worth it. And that West Brom fixture, and also Kane is back in 2 to 3 weeks, to be honest. So it's not all doom and gloom for Spurs and Son. So that's why I don't think it's really worth it. And if you look at his price, Rashford, he's also out of form. You look at Mahrez, maybe you look a bit over that price tag. Sterling, kind of hit and miss. So it's not too easy, to be honest, but we'll have to wait and see. Do you have any FPL superstitions? That's a good question. Well, I'm trying to think. Well, I'm always superstitious. I think whoever I bench, or whoever I vice captain will outscore my captain. I have those sort of superstitions. Do I do anything in terms of do I think this will help me do something? Not necessarily, to be honest. But you know what? If I find something that works for me, I am probably the type of person who would, let's say for example, if on the website I make transfers and I do really well from those transfers, as opposed to on my phone on the app, and I make transfers and they turn out badly, I'd probably start doing all my transfers on the website. But nothing like that has happened yet. And to be honest, I just think mixture of bad luck and good luck happens at times. It is what it is. But that's a great question. Has anyone ever told you that you sound exactly like Itani? No, I don't sound like Itani. I've heard it before. I don't know if it was you. I think 2 or 3 people have said it. I don't sound like Itani. Surely not. Good luck, Dylan. Thank you, Philip, and good luck to you as well. Thank you for joining in. Thank you, Vigard, and good luck to you too. And I'm pretty sure you're a Liverpool fan, and if you are, hopefully Salah and Arnold do absolute madness this week. Wilson captain, Cancelo vice. Good luck, Dylan, and everyone. Wow, that's pretty good, to be honest. What's your highest overall since playing FPL? Well, in terms of finishing a season, 68k, but that was my only season really. And the first half of the season, I took minus 100 points in terms of hits or something like that. And then I got my act together. I started playing a bit more seriously, keeping patient, and I rose up to 68k. In terms of what's the highest rank I've ever been, I think it's maybe 50 or 60k, and it was this season. But apart from that, I've literally just started last season. But thank you for that. And yeah, Wilson captain, that's very bold. I remember having him for that Palace game and him scoring 2 late goals, or a goal and an assist. And the absolute scenes there. Bench boost is definitely the way to play Game Week 22. Well, the way it's looking, everyone has got a strong bench, but I think there's going to be smaller double game weeks, and this Game Week 26 double game week, I think it's going to be a great opportunity to bench boost. So yeah, I wouldn't do that yet, but if your bench is strong enough and you're confident, why not? I had Mane, Sterling and Dyer on the bench last game week. Yeah, well, at least some of your forwards came on. Jesus Christ, what did I have on my bench last week? I'm trying to remember now. I'm trying to look at my team. So, I had Walker Peters on my bench. I had Mitchell. And I had Banford on my bench. First sub. No, I had Mitchell starting and I had Sufa on my bench. Sufa with 1 point comes on because I have 3 defenders missing. And I have 1 point from all my defenders. And the one with 15 points on my bench doesn't come on. It's an absolute nightmare. But at least with those players you said, they didn't really do anything. They just got substituted off. In my case, it wasn't the same. My superstition is I have to sit on a certain spot on the sofa when watching the games. Wow. Yeah, if I find something like that, I probably will do that. So, I'm not going to judge that. May Salah Hall, yes. Yeah, I mean, I need something like that. And to be honest, in hindsight, I should have captained him last week. I shouldn't have benched Bamford. But you know what? Hindsight's a wonderful thing. Arsenal fan, not Liverpool. Yeah, I'm an Arsenal fan, not Liverpool. Definitely not. I mean, Arsenal's my local team. I've been supporting them all my life. Why support Liverpool? I'm always going to support Arsenal. Sterling Hall, FPL God, please. Good luck to you. But let's see what happens. Welcome, Robert, for joining. Thank you. And 88 people here after the deadline has passed. Really appreciate it. If you have any questions or whatever, then let me know. Before I wrap up, I'll still be here answering your questions and stressing over my bench. But yeah, it is what it is. No, I meant me, not Liverpool. Oh, you're an Arsenal fan as well. Okay, fair enough. And to be honest, I was talking mainly to Vigard. I think he's the Liverpool fan. With you, yeah, I wasn't sure. So you're an Arsenal fan, fair enough. Welcome, Thierry Henry. Wow, the legend himself, the greatest Premier League player of all time. Yeah, imagine having him on FPL when he had 24 goals and 20 assists in a season. That is ridiculous. Would have been funny if FPL existed back then. I know they've got some kind of fantasy game going on right now, kind of retro style, but yeah, wow, Thierry Henry, man. I have 2 free transfers now that the deadline has passed. 2 free transfers, yeah, that's a great position to be in, especially if you want to go into game week 24. If there's double game weeks there, you could literally set your team up for that and game week 26. So that's a good position to be in. Opinions on Liverpool centre-back signings. I'll be honest, I haven't seen any of them play, but I've heard decent things about them. And to be honest, I was surprised that they got both of them in. I thought they'd only bring in one. But then you saw the news that Matip is out for the rest of the season, and it's no surprise that they've got 2 in. And to be honest, it's looking likely that Van Dijk is out probably for the rest of the season as well. And that's a big blow. But you know what? I think that Schalke centre-back, I think next to Van Dijk, that could be a very good partnership. But the problem with Liverpool, I know Van Dijk isn't injury-prone, but you have Gomez, he's injury-prone, Matip injury-prone. We'll wait and see how these centre-backs are. But yeah, Fabinho's a decent option at centre-back. Henderson I'd like to see in the midfield. He helps a lot. He actually is a great crosser of the ball as well. Gives another dimension to Liverpool's attack. But the centre-backs, you know what? I think the Schalke one's going to be good. But let's wait and see what happens there. I haven't seen any of them to really say anything yet. Start one of Soufal, Dallas and Mitchell. Well, the deadline has already passed. But if I were to start one of them, it'd probably be Dallas. I can't even speak at the moment, as I was saying all stream. But Soufal probably my first sub, Mitchell second in your case. Hope Odegaard starts. Arsenal fan here. Yeah, but only if he's, fully ready and fully integrated into the team. Arteta was saying he hasn't really had too many training sessions with us yet, so he's not fully acclimatized to the team and the environment, which is understandable. Smith Rowe, I like him a lot. I really like Smith Rowe, but he does tail off a bit towards the end of the games. He's young. He's also injury prone, and he got injured, I think, for the Southampton game in the FA Cup. So it's very important that we keep him fit. And I think this Odegaard signing, he can play on the right as well. I think it's pretty good. Aubameyang and Saka should be back, or at least in the squad. Unfortunately, Tierney isn't, but Arsenal look pretty decent right now. And I always liked Arteta, but some decisions he makes, I always question. I have to say that. But yeah, I hope he does well. But out of both cups in 9th, 10th place, it's not looking too good right now, but great form recently. Best bet for clean sheets from Game Week 23 apart from Man City? To be honest, I would argue Man City aren't really best bets. And let's actually check the fixtures. Let's see, can I actually do this on here? Or will this load me out? Don't refresh FPL, don't you dare. Okay, so best bets for clean sheets, and let me get back to this. I think if Burnley can get most of their kind of defenders back, they could actually be one of them. Believe it or not, maybe a Spurs defender, but I don't know. Spurs are just such an iffy team, but maybe a Spurs defender. That's a tough one. Maybe not for a clean sheet, but someone I'd actually like for this game week 23, is actually Dallas for that Leeds fixture. That looks really, really good. And Rudiger or whoever, maybe Alonso. Those would probably be the most likely to keep clean sheets. And a West Ham defender like Creswell or Soufal. Apart from that, I don't see too many clean sheets in the rest of the games, but you never know. Opinions on Arsenal's transfer business this window? Has it been the best in the league? Maybe. I mean, it's been a good one, but I don't know about the best in the league. It's been pretty good, but then again, you think about it. Ryan as the substitute keeper, we'll have to wait and see how he does. He's been injured yet again. But this season, he's been very poor, and there's a reason why he turned into Brighton's third choice keeper. So not necessarily great business on paper, but he might turn out to be a good backup. Should be better than Bruno Son. And as for Odegaard, I like that signing. Even if it doesn't really turn out like we want, I think he he'll help in terms of squad depth, in terms of rotating with Smith Rowe, giving us more options in attack. You know, we can play Smith Rowe on the left now and Odegaard down the middle, or we can play Odegaard on the right, Smith Rowe down the middle, or if not, bench one of them and then have Pepe on the right or on the left. We can have Aubameyang on the left, Saka on the right or on the left, Martinez on the left. And in terms of outgoings, very, very important to trim down the squad because it does seem at a time a lot of the squad was unhappy. And when you have, you know, good players who just can't get into the team like Sokratis, Saliba and Ozil, you know, you just have to make a decision there, and it's a good thing. It should have been done in the summer, but I don't really blame Arteta for that. I mainly blame the board or, you know, whoever's involved in transfers, Edu as well. But it's a decent transfer window. I wouldn't say it's a 10 out of 10. That would have meant getting a left back as well, because we did get rid of Niles. Now, we just have Cedric and Tierney at left back. So our options are a bit thin in that position, but yeah, considering the circumstances, I'd probably say it's a 7 or 8 out of 10 transfer window. But hopefully the signings do turn out to be good. I hope so. Let me turn on the lights. So, Maddison captain. Yeah, decent differential. I wouldn't go for that, but could be decent. Hopefully it turns out well for you. That's if you've done that. Agree, Scrambler. I'm a proud Norwegian. Oh, wow. I didn't know that, Philip. That's pretty good. Norway for the win. And you know what? Norway has some talented players, you know. Obviously, we don't have to mention the guy up front who could win a Ballon d'Or one day. You also have Odegaard, who's been, known since he was 14. So yeah, some decent players coming through for Norway. Any fear of Salah being rested? He's played 3 times 90 minutes in quick succession. Whoa, excuse it. Oh, Jesus. Well, there is a chance, but I think with Mane probably being out, I don't think Klopp is going to risk it. And also think about it. They drew to Brighton early in the season, and I believe I captained Salah for that. He got an assist. And yeah, I don't think Klopp will underestimate them. What could happen is maybe if Liverpool are winning 2-3-0 or whatever, he might bring out Salah for them around, the 60th, 70th minute. So yeah, that is a possibility, but I don't think Salah's going to be benched. Unless Mane is fully fit, and then maybe Salah can be on the bench. And hopefully that doesn't happen. That would be a disaster for me. Henry would have had 100%. If he was an FPL, 100% ownership, yeah. Maybe 60-70%. And if you think about it, back in the day, I mean, it would have been so interesting, you know, having United players, Arsenal players, even Newcastle when they were, you know, in and amongst the top 4. And when Chelsea came to the fore, you know, you probably want to triple up on the defence, or if not, have double and Lampard, yeah. Wow. Would have been really interesting to see how FPL was back in the day. Are you happy with the players going out from Arsenal, Mustafi, Willock? Yeah, I think so. So with Mustafi, you know what? Last season, when Arteta came in, he was actually looking really good, but he still has those mistakes in him. And, you know, he's a nice guy, you would think from the outside. And he always gives his best. And when he first joined, you know, he had a great partnership with Koscielny, but it just didn't work out. And too many errors. It's definitely a really poor signing overall. And when you look at other outgoing, Sokratis, model professional, always gave his best, and he was decent, just not quite what Arteta was looking for. So good that he moved on. Ozil as well, obviously in his prime, one of the best playmakers, if not the best of all time. But I just don't think he's as good as he was anymore. And yeah, it was just I was sick and tired of hearing his name every single time. And as for the youngsters like Maitland-Niles, it's good for him to get game time, although now we're a bit weak at left back in terms of depth. And with Willock, yeah, I think Smith Rowe and Odegaard better options than Willock. Willock, I like his energy. He always gives his best, but his decision making and not trying to sound rude, his football IQ, it's just not there at the moment. Maybe he can get it with regular football. Smith Rowe improved a lot by going on loan to Leipzig and Huddersfield, so hopefully something like that works out for him. But yeah, overall, I like the outgoings. I can't really disagree with any of them. Saliba on loan, it makes sense, although I think Saliba, in terms of potential, has a lot. Doesn't mean he's, you know, ready to start yet, but, you know, it's a bit of a shambles how that's happened so far. Inter Milan, yeah. From Italy, you know, I'm not going to say Inter Milan are my favourite team, but because of Zanetti and the Argentinian, you know, contingency there, Inter Milan are like one of my favourite teams there. I've got Kane and I've swapped him with Callum Wilson. What are your thoughts about it, please? Yeah, that's pretty decent, to be honest. Kane will probably be back in 2 to 3 weeks. Then you can get him back in, but Wilson could do all right in this period. Although with Wilson and Newcastle, they're just trolls. You never know what's going to happen. Wish you all the best with that. Salah and Soucek to Zaha and Grealish. No, I wouldn't get rid of Salah. Even if they have City next week, nah, As for Grealish, I would bring him in, but not getting rid of Salah, definitely not. News is that Van Dijk, Gomez and Matip out for the whole season potentially. However, Klopp said that he believes in miracles and so he would put Virgil in his UCL squad sheet. Wow. Thank you for that last sentence. I actually didn't see that. And very interesting actually. And Jota. I know we're not talking about defenders, but Jota was supposed to be back around early February. And obviously there's still maybe a few weeks there. You'd be hoping for him to be back for the UCL. Great option for UCL fantasy. But yeah, Liverpool have been, normally over the last few years, I was one of them. I was saying, when do these guys, they never get injured? What is it? They've got a lot of luck. And then all of a sudden, all the luck is just swung the other way. That's how football is sometimes. But yeah, Van Dijk, if he comes back, that'll be big. But I'm not sure he'll come back soon enough to make a big impact on the title race. But we'll have to wait and see. And just give me 1 second. Alright, I'm back. And answering your questions still, we've got almost 100 people here to this hour. Thank you for that. And wow, a lot of questions coming in. Let's see. Will Laporte play instead of Stones now that he's fit and fine? Not necessarily, but I do think there's going to be rotation there. Laporte is one of the best centre-backs in the world. At least I think so. That's the thing with Stones. I want someone who's nailed, and that's why what I think I'll do is either get rid of Cancelo or Stones for Diaz on a wild card, or if I have a luxury transfer to make, because Diaz sometimes those 6-8 points he gets you just comes a long way. Laporte I think will play quite a few games of the Premier League. Will he play more than Stones? I'm not sure. It might be 50-50. We have to wait and see more because it's just happened maybe once or twice, but it could happen more. Will Mahrez play in your opinion? Yeah, I think he will. Going forward, I don't like Mahrez, but for this fixture, yeah, pretty good. Maddison captain, yeah, I've already answered this, and decent differential. I wouldn't have done it, but hopefully it turns out well for you. And as for Gameweek 23, nah. Let's see, Gameweek 23 fixtures, Leicester, Wolves, nah, I wouldn't captain him for that. Glad to have him in North London. Please don't start Willian. Oh my god. You know what? I don't like hating on players, and I don't like the abuse he's getting. But I mean, I don't know what's happened to this guy. And I'll be honest, I never rated him, but he's never been this bad. To be fair, against Man United, he was decent. But you look at the chance he had, Martinelli, Saka, Aubameyang, all of them would probably bury that. Willian, he's got no confidence at the moment. And although he created a good chance for Pepe, I don't know, he just seems too slow on the ball. He plays it safe. He doesn't seem to, give it his all. When he's sprinting, he doesn't seem to be with full intensity. And one thing that Chelsea fans always liked about him, even when they were 16th or something when Mourinho got sacked, Willian was the one trying all the time. And, it just doesn't seem to be happening at the moment for him. But, yeah. 4-3-3 with Smith Rowe and Odegaard in the 8s and Partey in defensive midfield could be the move for Arsenal. It was Guardiola's main formation. Yeah, maybe long term, but Odegaard has to prove himself. And to be honest, that's I'm not sure about that, to be honest. Despite how good Partey is, I just don't know. I think that would leave us a bit imbalanced. What we have right now, we should build upon. And if we can see a route into more attacking football, although we are playing that recently, then we can do something like that. But Smith Rowe and Odegaard under 8s, I'm not too sure about that. That's if you're like Man City and you have Kevin De Bruyne and David Silva there, and you can literally just have whoever you want in defensive midfield, and you'll probably still win by 5 goals or whatever. While you have Trent, whom did you sell? I sold Kyle Walker-Peters for a free transfer. I really like this fixture, and yeah, you know what? I wanted to improve my defensive depth, should I say, because last week I had 2 defenders out pretty much, or should I say 4, and I got 1 point from the guy who played. So I need to have good squad depth, including my defence. It might mean more selection headaches, but yeah, I just went through Trent. Best Leicester asset right now? Well, considering that, we're going into Game Week 23 now, Vardy, he's coming back. He's definitely one of them. Johnston and Barnes. Those would be my top 3. Then Maddison. Apart from that, I wouldn't really look at anyone else at the moment. But yeah, those 4 look pretty good. And yeah, I agree with Dr. Bot. Wait for Vardy, likely to be back. Any leaks from Andy Robertson's FPL team yet? I haven't seen anything. I haven't been checking Twitter, so I'll be honest, I don't know. But that's a good point. Hopefully he doesn't transfer out Salah. Otherwise, I'll probably break this laptop and the stream will end there. I brought in Trent for Dyer. Yeah, that's fair enough. So similar move to me. Hopefully it works out for us. Yeah, we need Trent to come big. Robertson team ID, anyone? Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Hopefully someone in the chat can enlighten us there. What do you think about Antonio? In my opinion, obviously, despite the fact that I almost benched him for this week, I just think for the next few game weeks until their fixtures turn, he's probably the best striker to own. And right now, until Vardy and Kane come back, the front three you see here, probably the best you can have. Maybe Wilson and Watkins also up there. I wouldn't really look elsewhere in terms of strikers at the moment. Willian Jose will introduce himself to the Prem tonight, quality striker. I hope not. I want Arsenal to win. But Wolves are a difficult team. They've been poor this season, really, really poor. And Willian Jose almost scored a really good goal against Palace. But yeah, Wolves tend to just show up against the big teams. They got a draw against Chelsea. They beat them also. And that started Lampard's downfall. They're not easy. They almost drew to United at Old Trafford. Yeah, maybe Liverpool, they got battered. City, yeah, they got comprehensively beaten. And Spurs, I think they held them to a draw as well. So they've been pretty decent against the top six. Just one to keep an eye out for. Hi, man, I hope you're having a good day. Thank you, Summit, and same with you. Yeah, he looked good in Wolves last game. Absolute scenes if Robertson sells Salah for Mane. Oh, my God. I don't want to think about that, man. Like, seriously, that would be a disaster. I'm counting on Salah, for a really big score. So it would be a big shame if he gets benched, obviously. What are your thoughts on Antonio Rudiger? I would wait and see if he starts in this game. But if he does against Spurs, in my opinion, he's probably my next transfer in for Mitchell, as you can see on my bench. Excuse that. I think from Chelsea defenders, he's the one that I'm most interested in. Then it's Alonso if he nails down that left wing back spot. Rudiger, 4.5 million, good fixtures. He's got Sheffield away in Game Week 23 and then Newcastle at home in Game Week 24, looking pretty decent. So as long as Tuchel isn't, an annoying, let's keep it PG, then, it's fine. But Rudiger looks pretty good. Son benched. Yeah, fair enough. A lot of people bench Son. Yeah. Dying as well. We basically have the same team, just I have Gundogan and Soucek, not Son and Gundogan. Fair enough. And to be honest, Son, I didn't have him for one game week in Game Week 19, then I brought him back in after that. He's been a mainstay. I've had him since Game Week 1 and he's delivered for me so much. So maybe I've got a bit of a bias there, but for me, one of the best FPL assets this season. And there was one point where he was just unplayable. And when Kane is back, you would expect Son to start reaping the rewards again. And even against West Brom, without Kane, I would expect him to deliver. Would you get rid of Son if he didn't perform till the next week after the West Brom game? Yeah, I might. I'm keeping my options open in that case, but I'm not getting rid of him before the West Brom game. The reason why is because I already have other transfer plans, such as potentially Rudiger in for Mitchell. So I'm not really too bothered about that, and I could literally just get Son in or Son out for someone else. But at the moment, not really feeling it, if I'm being honest. Fun fact, you're 2 points ahead of me, and overall, I'll definitely be keeping tabs on your progress for the next couple of weeks. Wish you lots of green arrows going forward, hunting for you. Good luck to you as well, Danielle. And recently I've been stagnating, so I need some big weeks because weeks like Game Week 21, oh my God, I don't even want to talk about them, but good luck to you as well. Klopp said Van Dijk unlikely to play again this season. Yeah, it's looking really bad. But you never know. Van Dijk is a bit of a monster. You never know. Rest in peace, Sir Captain Tom Moore. Yeah, rest in peace. I actually didn't even see that. Hopefully 2021 isn't like 2020, where just bad news after bad news. Captain Cancelo this week, currently on 824k. So is it a risk, a good idea to climb rank? Nah, it's understandable. A lot of people in a good position are captaining him. Maybe it's a bit risky, but I think there's actually, plenty of logic behind that decision. I was actually considering vice captaining him or something like that. But he's, in my opinion, one of the best captaincy options this week. So looking pretty good. Which goalkeeper do you think should be used more often in FPL? Leno or Martinez? Martinez, in my opinion. He's more likely to get bonus points and save points. That's why I'd go for him. But if you have both, probably a good position, just like Arsenal were last season, having two of the greatest keepers in the league. Andy captain Salah. A lot of people are captaining Salah, to be honest. It's understandable, but there's Bruno as well. I wouldn't overlook him. I wouldn't overlook Cancelo. They could all do really well this week. My girlfriend said I've been too focused on FPL lately. I'm not on her. In my defense, I've got Stones, Cancelo, and James Justin. That's a good one. Fucking hell. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's kind of hard, not to be focused on FPL because, we're in lockdown. But yeah, I mean, it's not a bad pastime to have, but that's a really good joke. Lord Lingard, let's go. I love your commitment. You're always streaming after the deadline. Yeah, and also so many people join in, so, people have questions and it's interesting to discuss not just FPL stuff, even, general football stuff. So yeah, thank you for joining in as well. Really appreciate it. And yeah, just like Genius Gamer said, rest in peace to Sir Captain Tom Moore. Wolves haven't been performing, so don't you think Barnes would be a good choice? Yeah, he's not a bad choice, but people ask me, is it Barnes or Grealish? Like, who should I get in? I think Grealish. I'm not saying Barnes is a bad option. He can do well against Wolves, and especially with Vardy now back. But I don't know. In terms of my team at the moment, I'm not really thinking about Barnes yet. But if Son keeps underperforming and Barnes is doing really well, that could be a switch I make. But I'm not getting rid of Grealish, Salah, or Bruno for him. But Barnes is a good option, definitely. No doubt about it. McCarthy, Areola, Dyer, Sufal, Dallas, Diaz. Oh my God, so many. Yeah, I'm not going to say that. Bednarek, Mane, Rashford, Sterling, Son, Rafinha, Antonio, Watkins, Banford. Now that I have 2 free transfers, what will you do? And I want to keep Mane, Rashford. I mean, I'm not sure. Probably get rid of Bednarek and maybe Sterling, and if not Dyer. Those would be the 3 I'm looking to get rid of. The rest seems pretty decent, although obviously some of those picks I haven't had really this season. So yeah, thoughts on Saka? I think he's going to play today. He's got a sore hip, but he's been in training. Same with Aubameyang. Ceballos is back. Tierney's the only absentee, really, the notable absentee, along with maybe Pablo Mari for Arsenal. But Saka, I think, could do really well against Wolves, and he's someone to keep an eye on. I got rid of Son after the Leeds game, and it really paid off, getting him back in 2 to 3 weeks, maybe. Yeah, but then again, the West Brom game could be one where he hauls, but you can't have, everyone for their hauls, to be honest. Love from Nepal, thank you, and yeah, Nepal, really good country, and yeah, I mean, I've never been there, but obviously in Uncharted 2, Nepal is in that, so yeah, very good country. How do people make millions when they wildcard? Oh, well, maybe, I don't know. I mean, I don't really care about prices, to be honest. I have good squad value, but don't really care. But what people maybe do when they wildcard, they look at the kind of imminent price rises. They bring those players in, and then the value goes up. But there's obviously the selling price being different to the purchasing price. So obviously there is a bit of a distinction between the two, so it prevents people from just buying players just so they rise and they have infinite team value. Then they could literally have the most crazy team ever on paper. But yeah, it's not really something worth doing, in my opinion. My first season on FPL was like 4th million in Game Week 13, now on 1 million. Not a good rank, but slowly there. Yeah, I mean, it's all about improvement, to be honest. And in my first season, I was what? Let me try to think about this. Maybe 4 million in the world at one point, around November, October. And then I started getting my act together, stopped taking minus 100 hits in half a season, and I finished 68k. So it's just, it's definitely not impossible. Obviously, you have to get a lot of things right. And right now, I've been stagnating. I went from 60k to 170 in just a few weeks. But you know what? There's always the next week, and I'm hoping for a great week in Game Week 22. I bench Son. Wish me luck. Yeah. I don't know if I will wish you luck because I've got Son, so I want him to do well. But yeah, I mean, that's just one of those decisions you're going to be either celebrating or just kicking yourself about. But, if he gets 1 assist or something, you're not really going to care so much. But if he gets bonus and stuff like that, then that's when it becomes a problem. Son versus Gundogan. Yeah, for this game week, there's a debate to be had, but I still prefer Son, in my opinion. While you're still online, still helping people, great stuff, Mr. Dillon. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Salman. And if you have any more questions, then let me know. Still 100 people here. Really appreciate everyone joining in. You're honoured for you lot to be here. Are you going to cover lineups? Oh yeah. You asked this question a few minutes before the deadline. Let me tell you the lineups then. So we've got the Sheffield game. Obviously, both lineups are out. You know what? I have the Sheffield lineup right here, but let's go to the Arsenal one. That's the more interesting game. Obviously, no offence to any Sheffield or West Brom fans. Although, to be honest, it's more of a significant game. 2 teams fighting for their lives. So, Wolves, Rui Patricio, Connor Cody, Willy Bolly, Kilman is playing, Semedo, Podence, Neves, Matinho, Neto, Traore, and William Jose. Let's see Arsenal's lineup. Yep. Not surprised by this lineup at all. And Bernd Leno is in goal. Bellerin, Holding, David Luiz, Cedric on the left-hand side. Partey and Xhaka forming the pivot, Saka on the right, Pepe on the left, Smith Rowe just behind Lacazette. And let's look, is Aubameyang on the bench? Yes, he's on the bench. Arsenal's bench, Runnison, Chambers, Gabriel, Ceballos is back, Odegaard, Elneny, Martinelli, Aubameyang, Willian. That looks like a much better bench, although obviously I don't rate some of these players like Elneny and Willian. And as for Wolves' bench, Ruddy, Hoover, Richards, Dendonka, Gibbs-White, Vitinha, Otasowi, and Fabio Silva. Okay, pretty interesting. And, oh wow, just news came out that Marseille sack Andres Villas-Boas, but that was 1 hour ago, to be fair. Sheffield against West Brom. Let's see this lineup. Ramsdale, Baldock, Basham, Egan, Ampadu, Bogle, Lundstrom, Norwood, Fleck, McGoldrick, Billy Sharp. And then for West Brom, Johnston, Darrow O'Shea, Ajayi, Bartley, former Arsenal guy, Connor Townsend, Pereira, Snodgrass, Livermore, Matt Phillips, Robinson, and Diagne. Yeah, I nearly said Diagnane. I was like, what? So yeah, pretty interesting. Bruce on the bench. I'm not really going to talk about the others. Kieran Gibbs, another former Arsenal guy there. Maitland-Niles doesn't make the bench yet. Ivanovic, man. Wow. Yeah, I mean, how time flies. But yeah, those are the lineups right now, and pretty happy with the Arsenal lineup. It's probably the strongest we could go with, apart from possibly Aubameyang for Pepe. But Pepe's been pretty decent in the last 2 games, so yeah, yeah, pretty decent. Why Bruno is good to Man United? I mean, I think it's just this hunger, to score and assist. Even at Sporting Lisbon, so many goals and assists. And it was the perfect fit. United had no one creative. They had no one to score goals from midfield, apart from Pogba, until Bruno came in. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully that answers your question. What are your thoughts on Norwich? I'll be honest, I haven't really been keeping tabs on the Championship, but, it's a possibility they come back up again. And they've got some decent players. However, it could be the case of they come back into the Premier League and they go back down again. Norwich are always that sort of team, and especially with Farke and the football they play. I don't know. I'm not too sure. But yeah, I don't mind Norwich, really. Captain Werner, it's his time to shine. I mean, we've been saying this all year. Good luck to you, but I'm not sure about that. Soufal or Dallas to Rudiger make any sense? Rest of the defence are Stones, Cancelo and Shaw. That's a good question. I'd probably get rid of Dallas for Rudiger, but wait, don't do that yet. Wait for all the games to happen first, and also look at if Rudiger is starting. If he is, there's no guarantee he's going to start the next 2 fixtures, which are obviously very appealing. But Rudiger, very good choice at 4.5 million. Zaha punt, fair enough. Zaha's looking like a very good punt over the next 4 to 6 game weeks. He's in terms of fixtures, Palace are ranked first in terms of the fixture difficulty rating. I think Barnes has more goal threat than Grealish. Grealish is obviously the better player, but far less selfish and more of an asset. Yeah, fair enough, but I still prefer Grealish. Everything at Villa goes through Grealish. With Leicester, when Vardy's in the team, everything goes through him, if you know what I mean. I like the talisman of a team, but yeah, I get your point. All we need is Bakayo, yeah, hopefully. Aubameyang back on the bench, yeah, that's true. UCL Fantasy needs to come fast. Board, sitting at 6.4 million rank. Yeah, I know, but you joined, halfway through the season? So that, I mean, at least you went up quite a bit. Come on, you Gunners. Yeah, hopefully we get the win. I'm going to be watching that game. And, yeah, hopefully it's a sign of a good week. You normally could tell if a week's going to be good for you, FPL or Premier League-wise, when you see stuff like, is your favourite team going to win? Are all your players starting? And if you get early goals. So, yeah, hopefully this is a great week. Great vibes. Just check lineups and Saka starting, Aubameyang bench. Yeah, exactly that. What's a good FPL rank? It's my first season. I'm at 38k. It's all dependent on your targets. So if it's your first FPL season, I think a top 100k finish would be great, and if not, top 500k is fine. Don't be too off-put by numbers and stuff about how many points you get. It's all about the process of learning. So when you make mistakes like taking a -4 because you're impatient with Salah and then he delivers, learn from those sort of things. Don't kick yourself about it. And yeah, I think in terms of good rank, considering it's your first season, I think top 500k is good. It might not seem good for other people, but in my opinion, if you're just starting off, that's a good rank. But I think the main thing is, in terms of finding enjoyment from FPL, is not copying other people. Obviously, people have this tendency to just copy a YouTuber or something. in my opinion, the fun is in making your decisions, owning your decisions, discussing FPL with others, and talking about where you screwed up and where you did well. So that's just what I think. But yeah, hopefully you do really well this season. Can I catch up 170 points to top my mini league? Yeah. I've told the story before. I'm not sure if you've heard it, but last season, when I was sitting around 4 million in the world, I was 100 points behind, the people at the top of my mini league. There was 2 people 100 points clear of me, and this was in November, December, and I took 100 points worth of hits, and then I finished 68k and I finished top of that league. So it's possible. 170 points is a big gap, but yeah, it's still possible, definitely. Not going to be easy, but it's not impossible. Got so much feeling Son will score, man. That's the thing, and especially if Kane out of the blue in the lineup, I don't think it's going to happen, but if it does happen, then, people are just going to be shitting themselves. Why is Odegaard not on FPL? He is. He's worth 6 million, I believe. He is on FPL. Bench Watkins or Banford? I would bench Watkins, but if we're looking at Game Week 23, that's an interesting one. I would probably bench Watkins if you're talking about Game Week 23, but same with 22 actually. Then again, Watkins did do well against Arsenal earlier this season. He is an Arsenal fan, so he might be motivated to score against us. Love from Nepal, another one. Thank you, Dr. Bot. Great name. Hi, Dylan. How are you doing? I'm doing great, by the way. Was hoping Saka would start trying to stay in the top 150 in the world. 150, that's incredible. And yeah, Saka is starting, and he's playing on the right-hand side. Good evening, or good morning, or afternoon. Is it time to get rid of Rashford? It's evening here. Good evening to you as well, Roderick. Get rid of Rashford. It's a difficult one, with Rashford, because the fixtures aren't particularly great, like Everton, or should I say next week. But we look at Game Week 24 and 25, West Brom away and Newcastle at home, I believe. That looks pretty good. But after that, if he doesn't produce in those games, you're probably going to regret holding him. But I think from United, I always say this, Bruno's the guy you want to have, and if you want another attacking asset, Rashford's the second best. Too much rotation with Cavani and Martial, and then you have the defenders like Shaw, Maguire, Wan-Bissaka. But yeah, if you don't have maybe Son and Kane's back, Bruno, Salah, Grealish, Barnes, then you could get rid of them, but it's a tough one. Not an easy answer to that. Wow. Before I read this question, that made me laugh. Leno needs to keep a clean sheet. 120k at the moment, debut season. That's pretty good. And yeah, Leno hopefully does keep that clean sheet. I want Arsenal to win and carry on that defensive record. And why do you sound British and Norwegian at the same time? I'm not Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, fantastic. But thank you for that. Norwegian, well, I've never got that before. I've been told I look Norwegian and Swedish and all these Scandinavian countries and European, but never been told I sound Norwegian. But thank you for that, and I'll take that as a compliment. I have Salah, Fernandes, Pereira and Gundogan. I think I'm going to get 40 points plus from the midfield. That's very bold. If you get 40 points plus from the midfield, you're having a great week, and especially if you captain one of them. So yeah, good luck to you. What's your favourite team? Not the one you support, just one you admire. I support Liverpool, but love City's play style. I don't know why I started there. Okay, good question. Obviously, yeah, Arsenal fan. Team I admire right now, probably City, I guess, in terms of play style because of Pep. He's probably, obviously, besides Brian Clough, Arsene Wenger, maybe Ferguson, Pep is probably one of my favourite managers of all time, despite how of a twat he is, FPL-wise. But when Pep managed Barcelona, I think that's the best team I've ever seen. So yeah, I'd probably say that. But in terms of right now, it has to be City. So as you can see, I'm a big fan of Pep's style of play. And, for you to get the best out of the greatest player of all time, in my opinion, you've got to be a good manager. And I don't think he gets enough credit for what he did with Barcelona. People think he inherited that squad. To a degree he did, but he got rid of Ronaldinho, he got rid of Deco. And then he brought in players like Busquets, from the academy. And, he did an overhaul. And he's just a genius in my opinion. But yeah, that's my answer to that. I will try finishing in the top 1 million. Yeah, that would be impressive, considering you have, 10, 15 game weeks less than other people. 38k, very good for first season. It is, but there's a long way to go yet. So that's why, obviously, be happy with your rank, or don't be sad about your rank, definitely. But yeah, don't let it affect your decision making. Always just go with what you are doing and just captain who you think is going to do the best. And yeah, go for players you think are going to do well for you. Would you have brought in Salah or Zaha this week for Rafinha, taking fixtures into consideration? I would still probably bring in Salah. Palace's attack just doesn't fill me with confidence. Although, if you brought in Zaha, don't obviously just be put off just because I said Salah. Salah's one of the best players in the world. That's why I went with him. Rest in peace, Captain Tom Moore. Yeah, exactly. And it was you lot who broke the news to me, so thank you. And I'll be checking that later. Who would you replace to get Grealish in? My midfield is Rafinha, Salah, Bruno, Sterling, Son, and my forwards are DCL, Watkins, and Antonio. Ooh, that's probably Rafinha out of those. And if not Sterling, I'd probably keep the others. Salah and Bruno I would keep, despite how many blanks they've had recently. But yeah. Your take on Takumi Minamino at Southampton in terms of FPL as well in real life? I think he's a decent player. FPL wise, let's wait and see how he does before jumping the bandwagon. But he's a decent player. It's impossible, almost impossible, to get in ahead of Mane and Salah and then Jota when he's in such great form. But yeah, I think he's decent, and of course he scored his first ever goal for Liverpool against Arsenal in the Community Shield. But yeah, decent player. I think he deserves a bit more credit. But so far, we'll be honest, for Liverpool he has been a flop. I'm top 48k, best rank ever for me. That's very good, and keep it up. And yeah, good luck with the rest of the season. That was a fantastic impersonation. Thank you. I'm Finnish. Says Sasu. Yeah, Finland. I've been called Finnish before in terms of looks because I'm slightly blonde, but yeah, Finland, nice country. Kimi Räikkönen, if you know him, the legend from F1. Turn on your webcam. Let's see the sexy man. No. And come on, man. Surely you've got a girlfriend or something. But yeah, believe it or not, I've got no webcam right now. And adds to the mystery. Face reveal, not yet. How tall are you? Jesus, are we on a dating site or YouTube? What is it? How tall are you? I'm 5'10", or 180, 181 centimeters. But yeah, let's move on before this gets creepy. Nailed that impression. Thank you, Joe. But apart from that word, I don't think I could say any more for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Worth taking out Watkins and Rafinha for Grealish and Brewster next week for free? Really tough questions you're asking. I think, Rafinha's got Palace next week, so I'm not sure. But I would try to get Grealish at one point, but not sure. We want webcam, face reveal. Maybe one day. Best midfielder? Do you mean in the world or in FPL? In FPL? I mean, I'm guessing it's going to be an FPL question. We're on an FPL show. Best midfielder in FPL is Salah for me, or Bruno. As for the best midfielder in the world, it's De Bruyne, in my opinion, quite clearly. What about Gundogan? He's on my bench. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's not even. Dr. Bot is acting like one. Wow. Yeah. No need to be rude. De Gea, McCarthy, Diaz, Cancelo, Sufal, Justin, Wan-Bissaka, Salah, Son, Gundogan, Fernandes, Soucek, Banford, DCL, Antonio. 2 free transfers next week. Any transfer recommendations? Let me give this a good think. Give me a second. 2 transfers. Tough one. You got the United defender in ahead of some of the good fixtures they have after Everton. You've got double City defence, the 2 that probably are the best ones to own. De Gea, McCarthy, I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, how much money do you have to work with? If you have a lot of money to work with, maybe you could get rid of Soucek for Grealish or Gundogan for Grealish. But other than that, I like your strikers. They're very good. We'll wait and see how DCL does over the next few weeks. Then if you don't want to make that transfer I just said about the midfielders, then what you could do is make a change for your keeper. So either get Martinez or Pope in. You could probably get both of them actually. You already got Wan-Bissaka. So you could get Pope in for the Gameweek 24 and 25 fixtures they have when more Burnley defenders are back. And with Martinez, good fixtures up until March or April. So yeah, those would be my recommendations. Grealish, and if not, a changing keeper. I feel like last week was a bad week for everybody. What about the people in your league? Yeah, everyone's been doing badly from what I know. But it's just, in my case, it was bad because I had Banford on my bench. If I had him starting, I would have been happy with the week. That's literally the difference between a good and bad week for me was Banford. But most people, just either got less than me or just a bit more. So it's not too much of a big deal in my opinion. And some people have played their wild cards from people I know. They've played most of their chips. I've got most of them intact apart from the free hit. But, it's interesting. It's going to be difficult. I've got some good managers in my league. It's a private one, though. Do you play football? And if you do, what position do you play? Which footballer would you best represent your style of play? Very good question. Well, I'll be honest. I used to play football often, but as a kid, looking really far back, and I was a keeper. So I started off initially as a striker, and I was pretty good at that. And then I moved in goal, and that was my best position. And then I moved into defence, and then I'd alternate between goal and defence. But yeah, it's been a long time since I played consistently. I used to play every single day, believe me. In terms of who represents my style, I'm not sure. I mean, back in the day, because Cech was the best keeper in the Premier League, I'd be called Petr Cech. Also, I'm left-footed. But to be honest, I used to make a lot of acrobatic saves. So, you know, I like to show off a bit. I mean, maybe it's not showing off. I mean, it's not like I'm the biggest guy anyway. You know, I'm 5'10", so I would have to make, you know, I'd have to stretch out more. So Casillas was probably like my favourite keeper. So maybe him, but, you know, comparing me to Casillas is probably an insult. You know, he's probably the best keeper of all time, or one of them. But yeah, that's what I'd say. An outfield, you know, when I play a defensive role, probably a Mascherano. That's the type of style I like. Centerback or defensive midfield. And up front, I don't know. I'm trying to think of someone. Lewandowski, let's say. Yeah, anyway, that's a meme. Let's see. Still some questions coming in. Appreciate everyone who's here. Alright, man. Thanks for the stream. Thank you, Gaming Now. You've been here for a long time. Still 80 people. Appreciate it. I'll be wrapping up very soon, but yeah, just answering your final questions. How would you rate Magnus Carlsen as an FPL manager? I haven't seen him much, but obviously I've heard great things about him. And I think I heard something like he got rid of Banford this week. So it just shows that even the best FPL managers can make mistakes like that. You know, it's part of being human, you know. But yeah, from what I've heard, he's very good. But I don't know. I haven't seen his team. I don't know, you know, what kind of manager he is. But yeah. Grealish or Son next week? Son, you know, that West Brom fixture. However, I would want to see how Spurs and Villa play this week. But I probably would say Son based on the fixture. I asked by Jordan Ayew, but did not take the risk anyway. Fair enough. I mean, sometimes it's worth taking risks. For example, Pereira, Dawson, you know, these great differentials. But from Palace, I think Zaha's enough. And Mitchell if he played, but of course he's not playing at the moment. So yeah, I don't think it's worth it with Jordan Ayew. I think last season actually he was a decent FPL asset, but this season just hasn't happened to him. And I remember he scored a great goal last season. Do you think Gundogan will play this week? I think he will, but I think his minutes might be managed. And if not, maybe against Liverpool will be benched. I'm not sure. There's a lot of kind of speculation about that. But yeah, I put him on the bench, so I'm just hoping he doesn't do anything. Or if he does, it's just not too much. Who would you recommend as a swap for Mitchell? I have Robertson, Cancelo, Dallas, and Walker-Peters. To be honest, Walker-Peters is someone else to get rid of, in my opinion. I'd say Rudiger if he keeps his spot against Tottenham, and Holding's another one. Luke Shaw, Target, Justin. I think those would be my standouts, and Diaz if you have enough money. Those would be like one of those. Just choose one of them, in my opinion. 84 last week, very good. I wish I had that. Fantasy is back. You can refresh the page now. I hope you're not trolling. Let's see. Let's see if you are trolling. I mean, no, there's no need for you to troll. Yeah, thank you. Okay, this is going to be the first time, actually. I mean, I've been streaming for what? Can I count? Yeah, nearly 2 hours now, damn. I'll be setting up my team live here for Game Week 23, and you can see my initial thoughts. Now just answer a few of your last questions before doing that. I saw a high-ranked person in FPL, and that Smarty had Edison and Diaz, and of course those are the only two nailed starters. Yeah, yeah, maybe sometimes boring choices like that are good, but then again, if you look at Martinez, for example, or Pope, they've outscored Edison this season. Cancelo has a similar amount of points to Diaz, and he's played much fewer minutes. So, yeah, but having Edison and Diaz does seem safe, doesn't it? The team this game week: Mendy, Trent, Cancelo, Johnston, Sterling, Captain, Rashford, Bruno, Maddison, Gundogan, DCL, Watkins. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Yeah, I like that, to be honest, and should get you plenty of points. What was your favourite snack while watching football on a game night? Wow, such great questions. I'll be honest, actually I tend not to eat when I watch games. I'm so involved into the game, I'm so, you know, captivated by what's happening, especially if it's a good game. But if I do eat, maybe it's a takeaway when I'm, you know, with friends or something. And yeah, maybe a good pizza, some kebab. Very unhealthy food, I know. But yeah, in terms of snacks, I don't know. I don't really eat snacks. Yeah, that's a tough one, to be honest. Okay, he sold Banford. I can surely say he's not good in FPL. Well, not necessarily, because there's so many options up front. I think he's got some top 1k finishes and stuff, or top 10k. He knows what he's doing, but obviously with that, I don't want to get rid of Banford. But then again, I benched him. It's just a shame he didn't come on, despite being first on my bench. But yeah, I don't think he's bad necessarily because of one bad decision. I captain Grealish. Bad decision or no? As I always say with people who ask me, did I make the right decision? We have to wait and see when, you know, the points come in and see how Grealish does. But in hindsight, it's not a bad captain. It's a good differential. He's got a good record against West Ham. I see maybe a 1-1, a 0-0, a 2-2, 2-1. I don't think there'll be many more goals than that, but you never know. And the game that happened at the London Stadium, Grealish scored a really good goal from distance, and he salvaged me some points that week. I remember that. So, yeah, hopefully he does well for you. Robertson has Ings captain in his FPL. That's bold. I mean, he hates United, doesn't he? So yeah, it's understandable, and he's friends with Ings. So yeah, first time coming across your channel. Love your humility. Subscribe. Thank you for the subscription. I really appreciate it, and yeah, hope to see you more often in the live streams. Thank you. Make a league, by the way. I will at one point, and also for UCL Fantasy, that will happen at one point. My cup opponent captain Mahrez. I need Mahrez blank, Foden blank, Chilwell and Dyer blank. I need it. Wow. I'm actually thinking about it now. Mahrez did score a hat-trick against Burnley earlier in the season. Yeah, but to be honest, yeah, some of those players that you need to blank, it's possible for them to blank, like Chilwell and Dyer and stuff like that, and Foden. So yeah, good luck. I don't think all of them will haul. Captaining Antonio next week versus Fulham. That's bold. And actually, speaking of next week, yeah, I'm definitely not captaining Salah, I think. Look at that. Doesn't look great, does it? Sufa will be coming in probably for Stones. Ooh, that's a tough one. Gundogan first sub. Yeah, the fixtures don't look great, do they? It's going to be something like this. Either Son or Bruno will be my captain, I think, next week. Yeah, doesn't look great, does it? And what I could do, also, if I do get Rudiger in for Mitchell, I could play 4 at the back, bench Calvert-Lewin or something like that, or bench one of my defenders, and yeah, put Rudiger in there. But yeah, the fixtures aren't particularly great for me next week, to be honest. Whenever players like Banford, Salah have blanked 4 game weeks in a row, are always very close. Yeah, I agree, but then again, Salah blanked 6 times in a row. So people said this about him blanking once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. And then it takes, what, 5, 6 blanks, and then he hauls. It can happen to anyone, but Salah's just... In terms of in the league, apart from De Bruyne, he's the best player in the league, so it's hard to go against him. And whenever I've watched Liverpool without Salah, it is hell. I'm telling you, it's just awful. I remember when I got rid of him last season. Oh my God, I'm still having nightmares about it. I got Mane in ahead of the Arsenal game, and Liverpool won 3-1. Salah scored a brace, got 4 bonus points, and those sort of decisions and me taking hits every single week was why I was around 4 million at one point, or whatever, 3 million. But yeah, Salah just, you can't go against him. Thank you, Don, for joining in. Really appreciate it. Can you jinx Mahrez for me? How do I jinx him, though? That's the thing. What I'd want to do is probably jinx, you know, I don't know. I'm trying to think of players to jinx, but yeah. Maybe the Chelsea defenders, you know, a lot of people thinking they'll get easy clean sheets. Some people doubling up on their defence. Maybe jinx them. I don't know. Maybe Wolves as well. One of my mini league rivals just brought Werner. Oh, well, then maybe you're laughing there. But I don't know. Werner, when he clicks, he can do all right, but you have to wait and see with him. I had him at the beginning of the season, and then there came a point, I think game week 3, 4, 5, I said enough's enough. I got rid of him, and I haven't looked back since. Gonna probably get rid of one of the City defenders for a Man United, one for West Brom and Newcastle in a couple of weeks. That's fair enough. Although, one thing to consider there is that Man City might have a double game week in 24. And although it's going to be potentially Tottenham and Everton in game week 24, still, you know, having City players, double, triple City is probably the way to go. So just bear that in mind, but I do understand that logic, and it makes sense, to be honest. But just wait and see first before finalising and committing to that move. But yeah, it looks pretty good at the moment. Captained him last week with Banford playing 2 anyways. GG, all the best. Bonne nuit. Thank you, and all the best to you as well. Thank you for joining in, and all the best of luck. I brought in Rudiger, which is quite risky, but it looks promising. Took a -16 this week, so I hope I recover. Well, I'll be honest, you might not have a good week this week because of the hits, but going forward, if the moves are good long-term moves, then yeah, that's fine. But in my opinion, obviously, FPL, play it the way you want. Don't let others tell you how to play it. But in my opinion, try to minimize hits if possible, and only make transfers when you feel it's necessary. So -4, -8, but -12, 16 is quite excessive. And those are the sort of hits I used to take, and they always seem to backfire on me. So yeah, -4, -8 max, I would say. And I've been doing poorly ever since I've started taking hits again. So it's a lesson for me. Not take hits, but yeah, hopefully you do well. And I was oh my god, lineups should be out. Yeah, the lineups are out, and yeah, I already read them out. And thank you to everyone who has joined in. There's still 60 people, but I've answered all your questions, and it is time to wrap up. But I really appreciate everyone who's been here. If you enjoyed it, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. It's free, costs nothing, and yeah. Hit the notification bell so you know when I upload future videos. I'll be doing team selection videos, previews, chip strategies, stuff like that, and more live streams in the future. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and you can send me your teams there. And yeah, I also post regularly on those platforms. So yeah, do give them a check out. And I appreciate everyone who tuned in today. And I wish you all the very best of luck for Game Week 22. And then going into Game Week 23, going to be very interesting. And yeah, one thing to do is don't make early transfers. Try to avoid hits if possible. And yeah, let's try to enjoy the football and hopefully no benching shenanigans like last week. But thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.